721. Wang Po's death as a double agent. The value of the items listed in the jade slip far exceeded Wang Chopo's imagination. As a spy who had left home at a young age, he hadn't even heard of some of them. In that instant, Wang Chopo already believed Xu Bai's words to a considerable extent. After pondering for a moment, he gestured for Xu Bai to wait there. Then, he quietly lay back on the rattan chair behind him, seemingly closing his eyes to sleep. From Xu Bai's perspective, Wang Chopo's life force was dissipating at an alarming rate. In the blink of an eye, he seemed to have died of old age, no different from a corpse. As expected of a spy who has been hidden for 800 years without being exposed, he indeed has some tricks up his sleeve, Xu Bai muttered to himself, staring at him for a long time. The thatched hut where Wang Chopo lived also seemed to have some mystical properties. The disappearance of Wang Chopo's life force did not attract the attention of the people outside. They were still queuing outside, waiting anxiously. After a cup of tea, a gentle breeze seemed to blow through the house. Then, as if withered trees had sprung to life, Wang Chopo regained his vitality. However, Xu Bai keenly noticed that this old man, who was already 800 years old, seemed to be one step closer to death. Clearing his throat lightly, Wang Chopo stood up again and came to Xu Bai. I have confirmed with the organization, young man, what you said is true. The previous transactions with us indeed demonstrate the credibility of your overturning heaven society. However, Wang Chopo's old eyes stared intently at Xu Bai. How can you prove that you are a member of the Overturning Heaven Society? And not the Myriad Immortals Alliance, after discovering my true identity, wanting to follow the vine and launch a counterattack. What was the content of our previous 2 transactions? Facing Wang Chopo's continuous questioning, Xu Bai was not surprised. He smiled faintly and gave the answer. The first was the Immortal Alliance entry examination questions. The second was the true identity of the ancient cultivator sought by the Immortal Alliance. Hearing these 2 sentences, Wang Chopo's straight body instantly slumped down again. After a moment, he said in a deep voice, the organization has indeed observed traces of the reversal of the laws of heaven and earth. However, it has not yet locked down the true identity of this celestial venerable. The organization has agreed to this transaction. However, involving the eternal life celestial venerable, if a contract is signed, it may be vaguely sensed by him. Therefore, this transaction can only be agreed upon verbally, relying on the credibility of both parties. Xu Bai's eyes flickered slightly. Then, he shook his head and smiled. It doesn't matter, there will be plenty of opportunities for cooperation between our 2 families in the future. I believe you won't go back on your word. Since that's the case, I will inform you of this matter first. Xu Bai's expression turned solemn, and he whispered, what this celestial venerable is reversing is the open black lens bracket law of life and death close black lens bracket. Not long ago, we discovered some cultivators in the devouring yuan white mist who were neither alive nor dead, but rather like living dead. Combining this with the traces of the reversal of the laws of heaven and earth observed not long ago, after some investigation, we finally confirmed this matter. As for the true identity of this celestial venerable, we currently have no clues. However, there are some suspicious targets. After speaking, Xu Bai used his hand as a pen and wrote the names, Lan Yu, and Heavenly Physician, in the air. Wang Chopo's eyes narrowed, and he firmly remembered them in his heart. Seeing that he was about to lie back on the rattan chair, Xu Bai suddenly asked the previous question again, does the old gentleman want to return to his hometown? If you use the information I told you as a bargaining chip to negotiate with the 5 Elders Council, they should agree. A glimmer of hope first ignited in Wang Chopo's eyes, then quickly extinguished. He finally shook his head and said faintly, the fate of us spies is that our bodies and souls will all rot in a foreign land. As for my hometown, I have long forgotten what it looks like. His voice was low. Wang Chopo slept on the rattan chair, and his life force slowly dissipated again. The items on the list will be delivered to you as promised. You go, this time, I will not wake up again. He said this before his life force completely disappeared. Xu Bai nodded. Since that's the case, then I'll borrow your life for a while, how about it? Wang Chopo was stunned at first, then seemed to understand something. Using his last bit of strength, he nodded slowly. Before his life force completely disappeared, Xu Bai struck out with a palm. Wang Chopo instantly turned into dust. At the same time, Xu Bai shouted angrily, so it's a scoundrel from the 5 Elders Council, courting death. With Wang Chopo's death, the restriction placed on the thatched hut also disappeared. Shu Bai's voice was also able to reach the outside. Coupled with the meteor fall phenomenon generated in the sky, it immediately made the group of cultivators outside understand what had happened. This young man, who was very handsome, actually killed the famous Wang Chopo of Heavenly Cool State. There was an uproar, anger, shock, surprise. Many emotions erupted in their hearts at the same time. Capture him, the cultivators said indignantly, surrounding Shu Bai, who was slowly walking out of the house. Shu Bai's expression was very calm. Facing the crowd about to attack, he instead rebuked angrily, "Do you also want to become accomplices of the 5 Elders Council spies?" The cultivators present all stiffened upon hearing this. Although they had vaguely heard something about the 5 Elders Council scoundrel just now, they had not associated it with Wang Chopo. After all, the old man's reputation was too great. Almost everyone in Heavenly Cool State knew him. But the young man in front of them didn't seem like someone who would make wild claims and talk nonsense. What exactly is going on? The crowd looked at each other, actually being bluffed in place by Shu Bai's words. Quickly report to Lord Shang. After a while, someone reacted. You can't leave before the city lord arrives. They stopped Shu Bai. It doesn't matter. It's best to call all the people from the martial arts hall in the Garrison Academy. Investigate, and you'll know that what I said is true, Shu Bai said very calmly without resisting. Seeing this, the crowd became even more guilty. If what this person said is true, Wang Chopo is really a spy of the 5 Elders Council. The sky is falling. Thinking of the countless cultivators he had recommended over the years, the crowd swallowed and a chill arose in their hearts. The crowd didn't wait long before an orange escape light flew from the sky. It was none other than the city lord of Heavenly Cool City, Shang Rongxin. After scanning the surroundings and locking his gaze on Shu Bai, he actually didn't say anything, didn't even ask, looked down from a high position, and transformed into a giant palm. He was about to kill Shu Bai on the spot. This is to kill someone to silence them. The cultivators present were all shocked to see this, but none of them dared to stop him. Just when they thought that the handsome cultivator was about to die miserably, they saw him calmly take out a folding fan, and with a shua sound, unfold it. Before the giant palm could hit him, an invisible ripple appeared, dissolving the killing move. A look of astonishment appeared on Shang Rongxin's face. Looking at Shu Bai's seemingly mocking gaze, a sinister look flashed in his eyes. He was about to use all his strength, vowing to kill him. But suddenly heard a lazy voice coming from the horizon. City Lord Shang, please wait. I heard that someone here reported that they had killed a spy of the 5 Elders Council, is there such a thing? Before the voice could fade, a black-clothed cultivator appeared in the field. Shang Rongxin's face instantly turned gloomy. Because the person who came was none other than the commander of the Heavenly Cool State Garrison Academy, Nangong Shirong. With him here, it would be impossible to suppress the matter. This was troublesome. Looking at the meteor fall phenomenon that had not yet dissipated above his head, Shang Rongxin sighed slightly in his heart. Wang Chopo, Wang Chopo, you have left me with a difficult problem. After hearing the news from his subordinates, Shang Rongxin immediately made a judgment. Regardless of whether Wang Chopo is a spy of the 5 Elders Council, was true or not, he had to make this a false thing. Otherwise, looking at the smile on Nangong Shirong's face, Shang Rongxin seemed to have already seen the bloody storm that was about to sweep through Heavenly Spirit State, and even the entire Myriad Immortals Alliance. This little friend, come with me, Nangong Shirong said to Shu Bai in a kind tone. That's exactly what I want, Shu Bai cupped his fists, without fear. The following things progressed very quickly. Shu Bai insisted that he had discovered some clues that Wang Chopo might be a spy. Bearing the purpose of punishing evil and eliminating evil for the Myriad Immortals Alliance, he came to the door in person to test it out. Unexpectedly, this guy openly admitted his true identity, and even tried to launch an attack on Shu Bai. Shu Bai was forced to fight back and kill him. The matter was very simple. Nangong Shirong also didn't seem to delve into the truth of Shu Bai's words, but directly ordered his subordinates to start investigating Wang Chopo. Even if he wasn't a spy, he couldn't withstand the Garrison Academy's detailed investigation. Wherever he went, he would leave traces. What's more, Wang Chopo was indeed a spy of the 5 Elders Council. Before long, Nangong Shirong had a lot of conclusive evidence in his hands. Ha 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 ha, little friend, you have made a great contribution to my Myriad Immortals Alliance this time. Nangong Shirong patted Shu Bai's shoulder vigorously, his expression extremely gratified. Stay here before the dust settles, and don't go out, lest some people maliciously retaliate. Don't worry, after everything is investigated, the rewards you deserve will not be less. Shu Bai said solemnly, it is the mission of our generation to clear away treachery for the myriad Immortals Alliance. Seeing that Shu Bai's awareness was so high, Nangong Shirong was very satisfied. He patted Shu Bai's shoulder lightly again to show encouragement. Nangong Shirong left in a hurry. The conclusion of this matter was faster than Shu Bai had expected. Because the Five Elders Council also exerted their strength. Faced with the myriad Immortals Alliance's questioning and accusations, the Five Elders Council declared that there was no such thing. Wang Chopo had no relationship with the Five Elders Council at all. The Five Elders Council has always adhered to the principle of peaceful coexistence between the two sides, and will never actively damage the relationship between the two sides. I hope that the Myriad Immortals Alliance will not stage and direct itself, and make trouble unreasonably. The more they denied it, the deeper the suspicion. Although various signs indicated that this might be a separation plan made by the spy Wang Chopo before his death. But, better to kill 1,000 by mistake than let one go. Within a short period of 10 days, those cultivators who were promoted by Wang Chopo were isolated and investigated. Even some of those exploring in the white mist were forcibly called back. The final result was also obvious. A small part who were really found to have problems were directly taken down. Most of them, although there was no evidence to prove that they had problems, were no longer reused from then on. They were assigned to clean water positions, and if there were no accidents, they would spend the rest of their lives here forever. Just as the entire Immortal Alliance was in turmoil. A Garrison Academy cultivator, who had taken advantage of the transfer of several cultivators from their original positions and a large number of vacant positions, came to Li Fan. This is the agreed-upon supplies. The organization is very satisfied with this transaction. We look forward to our next cooperation. 722. Giant with 10,000 corpses. This young Garrison Academy cultivator appeared righteous, yet unexpectedly, he turned out to be a Fifth Council spy. Moreover, he himself had even participated in the capture of Fifth Council spies before. Making it seem even more absurd. He lightly left behind these words in a voidstone crime, then quickly departed, without attracting anyone's attention. Shu Bai also remained calm, quickly storing the fully packed stone crime. After checking, the types and quantities of materials inside were exactly as he had requested. In this regard, the Fifth Council does have some merits. At least, they are more reliable than the Myriad Immortals Alliance, Shu Bai mused to himself. Although after some twists and turns, he finally obtained the real enticing fruit he needed. However, Shu Bai still couldn't leave Tianliang province. Because the series of cases caused by Wang Chopo had not been officially closed, as the instigator, he naturally had the obligation to continue cooperating with the investigation. But at this time, the public's attention was mostly focused on the purge of Wang Chopo's old party and the open and secret struggle for vacant positions. He was temporarily forgotten, and he was left with leisure. Meanwhile, in the vast white mist. What happened? When I looked yesterday, there were only 5 disintegration discs left to be exchanged. Why has the number returned to 6 now? While flying rapidly through the fog on the Samantabhadra True Arc, Wang Fusong suddenly exclaimed. Dongfang Yao's expression changed drastically. Could it be that we have entered some kind of strange maze again? Has time flowed back to a day ago? Li Fan was silent for a moment, then said with some helplessness, it should be affected by the Wang Chopo case. One of the 4 people who exchanged for the disintegration disc should be related to Wang Chopo. Having the suspicion of being a spy, such an important treasure of the Immortal Alliance would naturally not fall into his hands. It must have been recovered. The 3 had just come out of the maze not long ago and restored communication with the Heavenly Zon Mirror. So they knew about this major event that had recently occurred in the Immortal Alliance. Dongfang and Wang Fu immediately reacted upon hearing this. Li brother, you are quick-witted, Dongfang Yao said with a chuckle. Wang Fusong breathed a slight sigh of relief. Originally, I was a little worried that we wouldn't be able to grab the disintegration disc with our progress. Now that there is one more out of thin air, it should be stable. The 3 of them invariably focused their gazes on their azure profound points. 36,000 points. According to previous experience, as long as they completed 1 or 2 more maze explorations, they could make up the remaining 14,000 points. Now, even in the most remote areas within the white mist, you can occasionally encounter the figures of cultivators. It seems that the entire myriad Immortals alliance has poured in. It's really outrageous. The explored area map given to us is completely useless, Dongfang Yao complained. Yes, fortunately, Brother Li is extraordinary and can hear strange sounds from the maze in the white mist. Wang Fusong glanced at Li Fan almost imperceptibly. Speaking of which, Brother Li, what kind of sound did you hear? Can you describe it to us? Wang Fusong asked tentatively. Li Fan sneered in his heart, just as he was about to answer. Heaven, Doctor, that ghostly voice rang in Li Fan's ears again. There is a maze nearby. Having gradually become familiar with this, Li Fan not only felt no fear in his heart, but instead stopped the Samantabhadra true arc that was speeding along and concentrated on distinguishing the direction from which the sound came. But this time, it seemed to be a little different from the past. Because the wailing like, heavenly doctor, was getting louder and louder. It was like, a maze was rapidly approaching. Li Fan's expression suddenly changed, and his divine sense quickly expanded towards the outside of the white mist, trying to find out the surrounding situation. But the white mist was like deep water in a clear pool, without a trace of fluctuation. He had no idea where the danger was coming from. Heaven. Doctor. The angry, resentful voice became clearer and clearer. It could be clearly heard that it was indeed the words, Heavenly Doctor. Coming from all directions, it was as if countless irrational ancient beasts were roaring and approaching. It had already made Li Fan's eardrums ache. He glanced at Wang Fu and Dongfang beside him. He found that even so, they didn't seem to hear this terrifying sound. Something seems wrong around here. Dongfang Yao, who was more alert, suddenly asked. Go. The sense of crisis that suddenly surged in his heart became stronger and stronger. Li Fan made a decisive decision. The Samantabhadra true arc suddenly accelerated, trying to break through the mist. At this moment, a huge palm suddenly stretched out from the white mist below. The 5 fingers were bent, forming a cage, trying to grab the Samantabhadra true arc in his hand. What the hell is this? Wang Fusong's expression suddenly changed, and while letting out a scream, his movements were not slow either. He threw out an apricot yellow array flag, which flew towards the giant palm like a flying arrow. The array flag burst open, turning into yellow silk threads, binding the giant palm and causing its movements to pause slightly. Go! Wang Fusong shouted quickly, his tone very flustered. Before he could say anything, Li Fan had already fully activated the Samantabhadra true arc, and fled far away in the direction from which they came. It's not that the few of them had no intention of fighting, it was just that the sudden appearance of the palm was too terrifying. Li Fan had seen the severed palm of the ancient celestial Venerable outside the eternal immortal fortress outside the Chi-Chi abyss. But even the shock brought by the palm of the ancient celestial Venerable was far less than the giant palm they had just seen. Because, this so-called palm was actually piled up and stitched together from the corpses of cultivators. In that fleeting glimpse, Li Fan could even see their twisted bodies and faces, as well as the strange black threads that connected their bodies together. What made Li Fan even more horrified was that although these cultivators could not feel the slightest vitality on their bodies, but they were still constantly opening and closing their mouths, uttering roars from the depths of hell. Heaven, Doctor! The giant palm was temporarily trapped by Wang Fusong's 1,000 silk kudzu array, but another one suddenly appeared from the depths of the white mist, brutally tearing the yellow silk threads apart. The 3 were able to see clearly that it was still a bizarre and incomparably huge arm connected and assembled from countless corpses. It was as if there was a dead giant hiding in the white mist, watching and hunting them. The Immortal Alliance's sky-splitting cannon, isn't it dealing with this guy? Dongfang Yao shouted, his voice trembling slightly. He gritted his teeth and threw a punch towards the giant behind him. The black cracks exploded like knives and swords. It was the magical power that Dongfang Yao had comprehended in the Rift World Vortex. But this killing move, which could even slightly tear the space, fell on the dead giant, and could not even slightly slow down its movements. The cultivator corpses that made up the body were shattered by the black inferior marks, and another one immediately crawled out of the depths of the corpse pile, wriggling and replacing it. This terrifying scene made Wang Fu and Dongfang directly terrified. 723. A chance of survival. Hurry, this ghost thing is beyond our ability to withstand. Wang Fusong shouted in alarm while setting up several formations outside the Puxian true arc. The speed of the arc's escape instantly increased several times. However, that terrifying corpse giant was still chasing closely behind. Moreover, its speed didn't seem to be much slower than the Puxian Truarch. Quick, return to the nearest Luoyan province. I'm afraid only the Immortal Alliance can deal with this kind of monster. Without him needing to order it, Li Fan was already manipulating the arc to escape along the fastest route. However, according to the distance on the map and their flying speed, they should have already rushed out of the area covered by the white mist. But the surrounding area was still filled with white mist, seemingly unchanged for 10,000 years. This is troublesome. We must have been unknowingly dragged into a maze domain by this corpse giant, Li Fan said with a grim expression. What? Wang Fusong was shocked and, after checking, realized that what Li Fan said was true. We can't defeat it in a fight, and we can't escape. Isn't this a dead end? Dongfang Yao's face turned slightly pale. Escape while figuring out a way, Li Fan said decisively. The Puxian Truarch maintained its rapid flight, trying to find an exit from the maze domain. The corpse giant, on the other hand, followed closely behind, as if it wouldn't give up until it caught Li Fan and the others. Several times, the Puxian Truarch was almost grabbed by the corpse's hand. Fortunately, Li Fan relied on his skills in manipulating the arc, honed in the Immortal Severing formation, to avoid the danger each time. Damn it, why is it following us? What deep hatred do we have? Unable to bear this stimulation any longer, Wang Fusong couldn't help but roar in frustrated anger. These unintentional words reminded Li Fan. This terrifying and bizarre corpse giant was clearly related to Heavenly Physician. It had no subjective consciousness and seemed to act entirely on instinct. Why was it relentlessly pursuing the three of them? While chasing, it also let out mournful howls of resentment. Could it be that it sensed the aura of Heavenly Physician on me? Li Fan instantly thought. However, he quickly rejected this guess. Not just in this life. Ever since his clone revealed a flaw in front of Heavenly Physician, and was chased by him across the heavenly profound space and forced to return to his original form, Li Fan hadn't encountered Heavenly Physician for a long time. Let alone being contaminated with the aura of Heavenly Physician. Li Fan glanced at Wang Fu and Dongfang beside him. They couldn't even hear the Heavenly Physician sound emitted by the corpse giant. Obviously, they couldn't have anything to do with this powerful figure. So, is it something I'm carrying that attracted this corpse giant? In a flash of lightning, Li Fan vaguely thought of a possibility. After scanning and counting all the items on his body, and unreservedly discarding some suspicious ones, but still not changing the corpse giant's actions, Li Fan finally locked his gaze on a white rib bone. This was the only item dropped from Yin Shengren after killing him in this life. Belonging to the first infected person of the immortal mortal taint. Could it be because of this thing? Li Fan pondered for a moment and held it in his hand. Feeling its cold yet warm and strange touch, Li Fan forcefully threw it in the opposite direction of the arc's advance. A moment later, Physician, that corpse giant, as expected, changed its target. Abandoning the Puxian Truarch, it roared and chased after that white rib bone. What does this mean? Li Fan was a little stunned, frowned slightly, and began to think carefully. And next, something even more incomprehensible happened to him. When the corpse giant obtained that rib bone, Li Fan originally thought it would retaliate wildly. But its movements slowed slightly, and then it stood there blankly. The undulating, Heavenly Physician wails slowly subsided. The corpse giant clumsily held the rib bone in its hands, protecting it in its heart. Then it sank and disappeared into the vast white mist. The changes only happened in an instant. Apart from Li Fan, the other two on the boat didn't understand what happened. They only saw Li Fan throw out some things casually, and then lured away the terrifying giant. Them, survivors of the disaster, stared blankly at Li Fan. It took Li Fan a long time to recover. He shrugged and said, it was just good luck. Wang Fu and Dongfang were noncommittal. But Li Fan had saved their lives after all, and since the other party was unwilling to reveal too much, they didn't bother to ask. During this period, they had really been through life and death together. Although their friendship wasn't that deep, it was definitely deeper than the bonds between most cultivators in the world. At least, that's how Wang Fu and Dongfang saw it. Everyone had their own secrets, and they tacitly chose to avoid talking about it. Without the threat of the giant, the three of them spent a lot of effort and finally escaped from this maze domain. But for some reason, this maze domain didn't have a reward from Qingshan Point. Preserving their lives was already a great fortune. They couldn't ask for more. After discussing it, the three of them, who were still in shock, originally decided to go back and rest for a while. However, the stimulation brought by the 2 fewer disintegration disks in the heavenly measuring mirror changed their minds. Ignoring that they had just escaped death, they plunged into the white mist again. So, people die for wealth, and birds die for food. This is the principle of heaven and earth, and even we cultivators cannot avoid it. Unless another longevity heavenly venerate can reverse this principle, otherwise, things like this will continue to happen in our myriad immortal alliance in the future. Nangong Sharong spoke eloquently in front of Shu Bai, but he was not talking about Wang Fusong and the other two, but the heavenly cool city lord, Shang Rongxin. After a thorough investigation lasting dozens of days, and after interweaving with various forces, the biggest scapegoat for the Wang Chokuo incident was finally determined. It was this city lord Shang. There was no way, who let most of the cultivators recommended by Wang Chokuo take his path. Moreover, he confessed to having received many treasures from Wang Chokuo. In the end, the position of city lord was dismissed. Fortunately, he retained his life and even his cultivation realm. He was only exiled to the extremely southwestern Kangwu Abyss to guard the increasingly frequent monsters at the bottom of the abyss. Nangong Sharong, who had made great contributions to this case, also inherited Shang Rongxin's position as a matter of course. The internal decision has been made, and the decree will be officially issued in a few days. Nangong Sharong, who was in high spirits, naturally did not forget Shu Bai, this great contributor. He even extended an olive branch to Shu Bai, wanting to invite him to take a position in Heavenly Cool Province. After all, although he had risen rapidly this time, he had indeed offended a large number of people. With a weak foundation, he was indeed in urgent need of cultivating his own power. 724. Tianliang Communication Envoy. Shu Bai didn't immediately refuse. Instead, he pondered for a moment, a troubled expression on his face. What is it? Do you have some unspeakable difficulties, young friend? Nangong Sharong asked. To be honest, Senior Nangong, I am not a member of the Immortal Alliance. I am an ancient cultivator who awakened from slumber. Thereupon, Shu Bai recounted, in detail, how he had exchanged the heavenly spirit flower for an Immortal Alliance identity. Nangong Sharong laughed heartily. Young friend, you need not worry. I have already investigated these matters thoroughly, including that Hidao level audience jade token, which has also fallen into your hands, correct? Shu Bai looked surprised. Nangong Sharong waved his hand, signaling him not to be nervous. Although it is indeed a bit unconventional, regardless, your current Immortal Alliance identity is recognized by the Heavenly Zon Mirror. That's all that matters. Even cultivators from the 5 Elders Council can turn over a new leaf and integrate into the Immortal Alliance. How much more so for ancient cultivators like yourselves? Furthermore, the Wang Choco incident has undoubtedly proven your loyalty to the Immortal Alliance. If it weren't for your vigilance, young friend, who knows how many more spies he would have planted within our Immortal Alliance. Nangong Sharong snorted coldly, then looked at Shu Bai with a kind expression. Young friend Shu, I am currently short of manpower here. Why not come and give me a hand? Rest assured, with me here, no one will dare to attack your past. Having said this much, if Shu Bai still refused, he probably wouldn't be able to leave this room. So, Shu Bai pretended to ponder for a moment, then said to Nangong Sharong with gratitude, in that case, thank you for your guidance, senior. After receiving Shu Bai's affirmative answer, Nangong Sharong laughed a few more times. With his approval, Shu Bai's entry into the system was exceptionally smooth. Even the test at the White Jade Heart questioning platform was merely a formality. They only asked a few irrelevant questions and quickly passed him. The position Shu Bai held was Heavenly Cool State Liaison Envoy. Reporting directly to the ruler of a state, the authority was neither great nor small. Everything depended on the Heavenly Cool City Lord's decision. If the secret envoy that Li Fan had previously held was to help the City Lord handle the state's affairs, then this liaison envoy was responsible for communication between Heavenly Cool State and other states, as well as the Immortal Alliance headquarters. The power holders of a state inevitably arrange positions for their descendants due to various factors. However, to avoid being too conspicuous and attracting attention, they often don't directly arrange them within their own state, but instead dispatch them to other, more familiar states. After 10 or 20 years, after accumulating enough qualifications, they are then transferred back. In this way, they can convince the public. Even if the Immortal Alliance headquarters investigates, it is completely in accordance with the regulations and procedures, and there is no way to find fault. Among the affairs that the liaison envoy is responsible for, this matter occupies the absolute majority. As soon as Li Fan took office, he was faced with this matter. After all, as everyone in the world knows, Heavenly Cool State has a large number of key positions vacant. You, Nangong Shirong, are eating all the meat, at least leave some soup for others to drink, right? There were too many forces wanting to get a piece of the pie, and it was not easy to balance all parties and make everyone satisfied. If you do well, it is your duty. If something goes wrong, Nangong Shirong can just push Shubai out as a scapegoat to appease the public anger. He was playing a good game. Faced with the countless visiting cards that arrived in droves, Shubai turned a blind eye to them all. He took a leave of absence, concealed his aura, and went straight back to Longevity Valley. Nangong Shirong sent a message to inquire. Shubai just smiled slightly and replied, "Let them cool their heels for a while. If there are any problems, the city lord can just push them all onto me." Nangong Shirong thought for a moment, said, "Wonderful," and then there was no more news. Shubai, who returned smoothly, took out the fruit of true temptation and came to the Medicine King True Cauldron. Zhang Yushan's sleeping room was next to Lu San's. Shubai entered it very smoothly. Without making too many modifications to her thoughts, he simply changed the appearance of Lu Yiheng in her memory to Li Fan's appearance. And, as usual, after implanting the suggestion that she trusted Lu Yiheng very much, he called Lu San in and woke her up in front of him. Zhang Yushan's eyelashes trembled slightly, and Lu San's face was very excited. Shubai quietly moved away a little. Sure enough, when Zhang Yushan woke up, there was some confusion in her eyes at first. But soon her face changed, and she shot a black death ray towards Lu San's direction. The black light was like a sword, full of baleful aura. But Shubai vaguely felt an aura from it that was exactly the same as the Longevity Green Force. It was indeed a bit strange. "Yushan, it's me." Lu San hurriedly blocked the black death ray and called out. Zhang Yushan was slightly stunned, then closed her eyes tightly, concealing the killing intent in her heart. After a moment, she reopened her eyes. "What's going on? Are we in the carefree realm?" The voice was not as gentle and pleasant as ordinary female cultivators, but rather hoarse and grating like metal rubbing against each other. Lu San didn't care at all and explained the ins and outs of the matter to Zhang Yushan. "We're back in the Xuanwang realm. Thousands of years have passed." Even this female cultivator, who had stayed in the cruel imprisonment hell for a long time, was a little dazed when she suddenly heard this outrageous news. "I want to go out and see." Obviously, she didn't trust Lu San very much. At Lu San's signal, Shubai released her from the Medicine King Cauldron. Then Lu San took her around the current Xuanwang realm. Soon after, she returned somewhat dejectedly. "Just now, you subconsciously attacked me, precisely because of the great tribulation of laws cannot be cultivated together." Lu San took the initiative to find a reason for Zhang Yushan. Zhang Yushan frowned slightly and said, "To prevent me from killing you, I'd better switch back to my original cultivation method." Lu San waved his hands repeatedly. "No, no. The sect is now in urgent need of longevity pills. Yushan, you can just help me refine them together with the longevity green force." Unexpectedly, Zhang Yushan refused decisively. "The longevity green force I cultivate is probably different from that of your Medicine King sect. The pills refined may cause murderous thoughts after swallowing. You should find someone else." Lu San's face froze when he heard this. "Now, besides me, you are the only one who still retains the Sutra of Universal Salvation and Longevity. The killing tribulation of laws cannot be cultivated together is really terrifying. I'm afraid that it will be difficult to control if there are more than 3 people." Lu San explained stammeringly. A cold light flashed in Zhang Yushan's eyes, and Lu San stopped talking immediately. "Elder Zhang can rest assured and refine pills. Even if there are some side effects, the current Immortal Alliance cultivators probably won't mind." At the critical moment, Shubai still came to Lu San's rescue. 725. Where does the heavenly doctor come from? Zhang Yushan looked at Shubai. His handsome features did not cause the slightest psychological fluctuation in her. However, the face of Lu Yiheng instantly appeared in her mind, causing her to hesitate for a moment. From Lu San's mouth, she knew that Shubai was a clone refined by Lu Yiheng. With Lu Rushan's death, Lu Yihang was now the sect master of the Medicine King sect. Her expression softened slightly, and after hesitating for a while, Zhang Yushan finally nodded slightly. Since the sect master said so, then let's try it first. But I lived in the boundless hell in my early years, and I am stained with monstrous baleful aura that cannot be removed. Is it really okay? She frowned slightly, somewhat puzzled. According to the current demand of the myriad Immortal Alliance cultivators for the longevity pill, even if it has some minor side effects, it should be within an acceptable range. After all, one is dying of old age, and the other is just suffering some damage to the body. They can still distinguish which is more important, Shu Bai said confidently. At the same time, he briefly introduced the background of the soul-devouring white mist to Zhang Yushan, as well as the current policy of the myriad Immortal Alliance encouraging cultivators to explore the white mist. When I was flying outside just now, I noticed those white mist walls that run through the sky and the earth. Devouring lifespan, dividing the world. In the millennium since, great changes have taken place, Zhang Yushan sighed almost imperceptibly. Now is the time when the longevity pill is selling best, and the supply cannot meet the demand. With the strength of Elder Lu alone, it cannot meet the demand. I hope Elder Zhang can lend a hand, Shu Bai said softly. Refining pills, let's try it first, Zhang Yushan nodded in agreement. A trace of joy appeared on Lu San's face. Immediately, in the pill room of Longevity Valley, he summoned 99 golden core disciples and set up the great benevolent longevity formation. Lu San and Zhang Yushan sat cross-legged in the center of the formation, pouring the longevity azure force into the Medicine King cauldron at the core of the formation. As soon as the two forces came out, Shu Bai keenly noticed the difference between them. If Lu San's longevity azure force was as vibrant as spring, then Zhang Yushan's was a hint of sternness in the vitality. And, Shu Bai also felt a little familiar with this baleful aura. Narrowing his eyes slightly, Shu Bai remained calm for the time being, waiting for the longevity pill to be refined. With Zhang Yushan's help, the speed of the formation's operation was almost 3 times faster than before. In addition, Lu San was familiar with presiding over the formation, and before long, the first batch of longevity pills was refined. 3 pills were successfully produced. However, a wisp of black cloud was inappropriately stained on the sky blue and round pills. It looked extremely unsightly. Even the natural medicinal fragrance of the life-extending medicine was suppressed. Even if you hold the pill in your hand, there is no urgent desire to swallow it. Sect Master, will this kind of pill work? Zhang Yushan frowned slightly. Shu Bai did not answer immediately, but threw one of them into his mouth, closed his eyes and felt it. He didn't care about the increased lifespan, but felt the baleful aura that appeared with the longevity azure force after the pill melted in his body, wantonly destroying his body. As expected, heavenly fiend aura, Shu Bai felt a little solemn in his heart. Elder Zhang, can you explain in detail, what exactly is this baleful aura? Shu Bai asked, circulating the spiritual energy in his body to slowly repair the damage caused by the baleful aura. He opened his eyes and asked. Zhang Yushan was stunned for a while, and then explained to Shu Bai. In ancient times, cultivators would transcend the heavenly tribulation and ascend. This heavenly tribulation is a test, but also an opportunity. Although there is a risk of death, if you successfully pass it, you will be infused with immortal spiritual energy and transformed into an immortal. However, later the road to immortality was cut off, and the heavenly tribulation no longer appeared. However, the killing intent of heaven and earth still needs a way to vent, so the baleful aura descended into the world. This is the original source of the baleful aura in the boundless hell. However, later, the boundless hell was imprisoned with many vicious people, and it was mixed with the boundless killing intent of people. Heaven and man interacted, and this baleful aura became more and more strange and difficult to deal with. Even though I have been away from it for decades and constantly washing myself with the heart of helping the world and saving people, it is still difficult to eliminate it, Zhang Yushan said slowly. Over time, the damage of the baleful aura to the cultivator's body is irreversible. My somewhat unique voice is caused by it. However, with such a drastic change in the Xuanwang realm, I don't know what the scene will be like in the boundless hell. Zhang Yushan had a few moments of absent-mindedness on her face. Heavenly fiend, heavenly kill. Shu Bai showed a look of contemplation. Elder Zhang, have you ever seen this person, and a sword full of baleful aura? As he said that, Shu Bai sketched the image of the fisherman and the heavenly fiend sword in the void. Zhang Yushan stared at it for a while, and shook her head. I have never seen it. Then forget it. This result was also within Shu Bai's expectations. He waved his hand to dissipate the image of the fisherman, and said to Zhang Yushan and Lu San, "You two don't have to worry. Although the longevity pill you jointly refined will indeed cause damage to the cultivator's body, the flaws do not hide the jade. If the life-extending effect remains unchanged, I believe there will still be a large number of people rushing to buy it. At most, we can lower the price." Dispelling the two's worries, Shu Bai let them refine the pills with peace of mind. "About how many pills do you need to refine? I am very interested in this world thousands of years later, and I want to go out and take a look," Zhang Yushan asked directly. Shu Bai was immediately speechless. Looking at Lu San, he saw him staring at Zhang Yushan obsessively, obviously not objecting to her decision. After pondering for a moment, Shu Bai said, "Just consume half of the raw materials for the longevity pill in Longevity Valley. Otherwise, it will be a waste to keep squeezing them." Obviously, he did not have a clear quantitative understanding of the number of medicinal materials in Longevity Valley. Zhang Yushan nodded and readily agreed. "In that case, I will have to trouble you too." Shu Bai smiled slightly and floated away from Longevity Valley. At least for a year and a half, she won't be able to come out. However, the figure of the open black lens bracket Heavenly Doom close black lens bracket Fisherman Elder appeared in Shu Bai's mind again. The baleful aura on Zhang Yushan's body was surprisingly similar to the aura on Heavenly Doom. But there were also subtle differences. The difference was difficult to explain in words. However, for Li Fan, who had been in contact with both of them, it was easy to distinguish. If a suitable analogy were to be used to describe it, then, two portions of seawater with different salt concentrations might be able to describe the difference between the two more vividly. Similar but not the same, it's like from two different worlds. A gleam of light flashed in Shu Bai's eyes. Zhang Yushan came from the boundless hell in the Medicine King sect. In today's Xuanwang realm, records can still be found faintly. Then the result is obvious. A long time ago, he had a faint guess in his heart. The Heavenly Physician, Heavenly Doom, Heavenly Oracle, and the group from the Cloudwater Heavenly Palace are likely not to be native cultivators of the Xuanwang realm. But, outsiders. 726. The Heavenly Lord defies reason again. Because not only can no records of them be found now, but even the Medicine King sect, who came across time from the ancient cultivation world, are also completely unaware of the celestial healers. This is very abnormal and cannot help but make people suspect their origins. Because such strong individuals would never be unknown. If that's the case, then many things can be explained. Back then, when I wanted to form my core with the open black lens bracket celestial slaughter method close black lens bracket and the open black lens bracket boundless sea method close black lens bracket, I felt a fatal crisis. If I simply used these two to form my core, I would inevitably face the backlash of heaven and earth. Only by adding the comprehension of other laws such as azure flame and ink kill can the golden core be stabilized. Because the celestial slaughter and boundless sea methods that I observed and imitated were not originally from the Xuanwang realm. If I forcibly use these two to form my core, I might be regarded as a pure outsider by heaven and earth. The outcome. Several scenes of the Kong Cloud Sea being destroyed flashed through Li Fan's mind in an instant. Perhaps this is why the Kong Cloud Sea had to die. Existing beings that do not belong to the Xuanwang realm, yet rely on the nourishment of the Xuanwang realm, and become increasingly prosperous. Like a foreign object inserted into the body, it must be eliminated as soon as possible. However, Zhang Haobo was able to successfully establish his foundation with the celestial slaughter sword intent that day, which shows that these former outsiders are gradually being transformed into a part of the Xuanwang realm. Like the Kong Cloud Sea, which was exterminated once by azure flame and ink kill, and then regained its vitality. It seems that the hostility of heaven and earth towards it will be greatly reduced. Contact, fusion, Li Fan pondered. That day in the Cloudwater Celestial Palace, when Boundless Sea identified the fisherman as the murderer who slaughtered the entire Cloudwater Celestial Palace, he said, "Celestial slaughter heavy weapon, no one except Celestial Termination honored one can use it." Originally, Li Fan thought he was referring to the words open black lens bracket celestial slaughter close black lens bracket. After all, when Zhang Haobo fell in the past, the Tao foundation of Zhang Haobo, which manifested in the phenomena of heaven and earth, was the open black lens bracket celestial slaughter sword intent close black lens bracket. And one of Li Fan's 9 laws is the celestial slaughter method. Now it seems that in the original world of the celestial healers, celestial slaughter was once open black lens bracket celestial killing close black lens bracket. However, when they came to the Xuanwang realm, their own laws and the laws of the Xuanwang realm underwent convergent evolution. So some differences were born. Li Fan also thought that the current Xuanwang realm is almost a circle larger than it was in ancient times, plundering other heavens and worlds, while avoiding being swallowed by the immortal ruins. There are also different law conflicts between worlds. This may be the source of open black lens bracket weirdness close black lens bracket in the world. Celestial terminations amnesia. The celestial edict and the cloud water celestial palaces people turning into weirdness, could it be affected by the fusion of worlds? In this way, the open black lens bracket celestial healer close black lens bracket, who is safe and sound in this process, seems even more terrifying. Moreover, the celestial healer has lived for thousands of years, and the various strange mazes in the white mist are obviously related to him. I don't know what he is planning. The strangest thing is the reaction of the several eternal celestial sovereigns of the Xuanwang realm. If they don't know anything about the celestial healer's little tricks, I definitely don't believe it, but they have always been indifferent. Is it an agreement, or? The face of the celestial healer appeared in Shu Bai's mind. After a long time, he shook his head slightly and temporarily suppressed all kinds of thoughts. Returning to celestial cooling state, restoring the connection of the communication spirit talisman, countless messages suddenly poured in like snowflakes. Shu Bai was not flustered and dealt with them one by one. How to balance a bowl of water, he had already mastered it when he was a grand tutor in Great Zon. Now there are still 640 vacant positions in celestial cooling state. With Nangong Shirong's approval, only more than 200 positions are used to trade and compromise with other forces. But there are more than 1,000 people who want to get a piece of the pie from this matter. How to satisfy the vast majority of people while offending the fewest people requires careful consideration. While Shu Bai was checking the details of these people, he replied to messages and inquired about their personalities. Just when Shu Bai was so busy with his new position, a major event suddenly attracted the attention of the whole world. The leader of Source Tao State, Immortal Venerable Azure Feather, because his lifespan was about to end, he was soliciting all the treasures that could prolong life from the cultivators of the world. At the same time, he provided a list of life-prolonging treasures he had already taken. And he claimed that anyone who can provide effective treasures can choose from his collection. Immortal Venerable Azure Feather has been in charge of Source Tao State for thousands of years. His collection is so rich. It is even more generous than the rewards of the Myriad Immortals Alliance to encourage cultivators to explore the White Mist. So the world was shaken. Many cultivators hurried back from the White Mist and went to risk finding life-prolonging treasures. Li Fan stared at this message, slightly stunned. Azure Feather is giving up and betting everything to reverse life and death. It seems that the news of a celestial sovereign proving Tao has been leaked. Is it a leak from within the Myriad Immortals Alliance, or the Five Elders Association? While Li Fan was stunned, Wang Fusong carefully studied the message released by Azure Feather and shook his head and sighed. Immortal Venerable Azure Feather has ruled a state for thousands of years. What kind of life-prolonging treasures has he not eaten? This list can almost be regarded as the open black lens bracket Xuanwang Realm life-prolonging treasure illustrated book close black lens bracket. If you want to get a reward from him. Anyway, I don't have that kind of luck, he said with some self-deprecation. Damn it, there are so many things, I haven't even heard of them in the East. He has eaten them all. Dongfang Yao smacked his tongue and said, in my opinion, those who are destined to die will die anyway. Why struggle so much and linger on? It's better to get relief sooner. Listening to the complaints of the two people around him, Li Fan suddenly realized. The long-prepared plan was suddenly disrupted. Now Azure Feather needs time the most, and it is a last resort to offer a reward to the world. What will he do next? In fact, things have reached this point, and Azure Feather has no room for choice. First, change the principle he wants to reverse and fight for a chance to prove Tao and achieve eternal life. But obviously, mastering the conditions to reverse the principle is not something that can be achieved in a day. It is almost impossible to do this in a short period of time. Otherwise, Azure Feather would not have set up a large formation and bet everything until he was near death. Then the rest is Azure Feather's only choice at present. Reverse the principle of life and death again, and compete with that unnamed eternal celestial sovereign. Li Fan suddenly realized. Although it is also extremely difficult, Azure Feather is more familiar with the principle of life and death after all. Compared with changing the reversed principle, the possibility of success is greater. Among them, there may also be support from the Five Elders Association. Li Fan's thoughts turned sharply. Interesting, let's see how the Myriad Immortals Alliance will choose next. Will it support the unknown eternal celestial sovereign, or support Azure Feather? 727. Giant corpse suddenly disintegrates. Seeing Li Fan lost in thought, Wang Fusong assumed he was also considering returning to try his luck and search for longevity treasures. He immediately began to dissuade him. After all, without Li Fan, the efficiency of him and Dongfang exploring the misty domain would definitely not be as high as before. The hope of exchanging for the limited treasures on the Azure Profound ranking list would be even more dim, uncertain. Actually, Immortal Venerable Lanyu's release of this reward is a good thing for us. The so-called waxing and waning means that a considerable number of cultivators will be attracted back. The competitive pressure here in the white mist will decrease. Wang Fusong even analyzed it in a serious manner. Li Fan smiled and waved his hand to interrupt him. Brother Wangfu, there's no need to worry. I have no intention of returning. Moreover, I might even stay in the white mist longer than you. Dongfang Yao immediately became curious. What is it, Brother Li? Which item on the Azure Profound ranking list has caught your eye? Li Fan didn't hide anything and paused before saying, the Doomsday Stone Disc. Dongfang and Wangfu exchanged glances. 10,000 Azure Profound points, to gamble on that secondary life form with an unknown function. Dongfang Yao couldn't help but advise, Brother Li, think thrice. The risk is really too great. What if that thing just has a catchy name but its actual function isn't great? Wouldn't you lose everything? It's better to look at other things. Even exchanging for a Dao integration cultivation method would be good. Even if you can't use it yourself, you can trade it with others. Dongfang Yao babbled on, and Wang Fusong also pondered and gave his own opinion. Doomsday Stone Disc. I heard that after this secondary lifeform was born, no other heavenly profound secondary lifeforms were produced for a full decade. It made the headquarters people very nervous, thinking that secondary lifeforms would never descend again. It was because of this that it got the name Doomsday. However, Wang Fusong frowned slightly. It caused the heavenly profound mirror to have such a long period of abnormality, and we originally thought it had something special about it. As a result, we researched it for a long time, but there were no definite results, and we finally had to give up on studying it. This may be the reason why the Immortal Alliance was able to put it on the Azure Profound ranking list this time. After all, it is a heavenly profound secondary life form, and maybe there really is some practical use that the Immortal Alliance has not yet discovered. The price of 100,000 Azure Profound points is high, but if you gamble right. Li Fan smiled and continued, it's a great investment. I'm willing to try. Dongfang Yao clicked his tongue. Brother Li, you're a big gambler. What if you find out in the end that that thing is really just a broken stone with nothing? Then at least it has some collectible value, and it won't be a complete loss. Li Fan smiled faintly, extremely unrestrained. My only worry now is whether there are other people who want to compete with me. There are thousands upon thousands of Immortal Alliance cultivators, and I'm definitely not the only one who likes to gamble. Wang Fusong clapped his hands and said, then it seems we need to speed up our progress. We're still quite a bit away from 100,000 Azure Profound points. After this discussion, the three unified their goals and continued to explore the misty domain with all their strength. Time passed quickly in this process. Wangfu and Dongfang had already exchanged for the disintegration disc and the devouring yuan holy body technique and turned their attention to other treasures. And the accumulated Azure Profound points were getting closer and closer to 100,000. Now, the misty domains that the three had explored, including the initial life and death misty domain, had reached the number 13. While becoming more and more skilled and proficient in the exploration process, Li Fan also summarized some rules regarding the existence of the misty domain. Based on the conclusion that the current Xuanwang realm is the ancient Xuanwang realm fused with many other worlds, Li Fan discovered that the so-called misty domain is likely to be a fragment that fell off from the original world during the process of mutual fusion and collision of worlds. The misty domain is very strange, often having its own unique rules, which is very similar to the anomalies in the Xuanwang realm. By comparing the clothing and attire of the cultivator corpses in the misty domain and the patterns and styles of the buildings, Li Fan also discovered that these misty domains clearly had their own different origins. World-level evolution is happening in the collision, and the white mist is its buffer zone. After completing the exploration of a misty domain again, Li Fan understood something in his heart. This may also explain why there is such a vast space in the white mist, because that was originally the distance between worlds. Damn it, it's getting harder and harder to find misty domains that haven't been discovered yet. The Puxian True Arc flew through the white mist for several days, passing by several misty domains, but the measuring heaven mirror sent prompts that they had already been recorded. Dongfang Yao couldn't help but curse. Wang Fusong played with the disintegration disc in his hand, and said somewhat absent-mindedly, "It's normal. It's almost been a year since the Immortal Alliance issued the exploration order, right? With the number of Immortal Alliance cultivators, the shallow parts of the white mist should have been explored almost completely. To gain something next, we must continue to go deeper." Bang! Wang Fusong hadn't finished speaking when he suddenly heard a loud noise. It was as if something had fallen from above onto the Puxian True Arc, and the hull shook violently for a moment. Wang Fusong subconsciously put away the disintegration disc in his hand, and after scanning with his divine sense, his expression showed a strange look. Because what collided with the speeding Puxian True Arc was actually a cultivator's corpse. Moreover, judging from the clothes worn by the corpse, it was not from the misty domain, but from the myriad Immortal Alliance. The three people on the ship instantly looked stern, thinking that some Immortal Alliance cultivators had encountered some accident here and died unfortunately. They immediately concentrated and became vigilant. But the next scene that happened made Li Fan and the others couldn't help but show a look of horror. Bang, bang, first one or two sounds, and then more and more densely. Continuous collision sounds rang out, and the Puxian True Arc was constantly vibrating, and the protective shield instantly became precarious. Wang Fusong cast a spell to strengthen it while looking at the scene outside, his face pale. "I saw a dark cloud overhead, and countless cultivator corpses, like raindrops, fell from above. Some bodies were still relatively complete, while others were already fragmented and only had limbs remaining. But without exception, the edges of their bodies seemed to have traces of twisted, wriggling black rope lines. The faces of the corpses that could be glimpsed occasionally were not as terrifying as those seen in the misty domain. Instead, they closed their eyes tightly and had peaceful expressions. The rain of corpses was continuous, as if it would never stop. Forcibly rushing out of the area covered by the rain of corpses at high speed would probably damage the Puxian True Arc. The three stopped the flying boat and stepped in to block the corpses falling from above the flying boat. Although they are all lifeless existences, the threat is not great. But this strange scene still made the three feel a little chilly in their hearts. 728. Death and Life Proves the Heavenly Lord. Witnessing this scene, Li Fan immediately thought of the resurrection rain that Immortal Shang had mentioned. However, the corpses falling from the sky this time were clearly different in appearance. So, he quickly realized that it wasn't any resurrection rain. Rather, it was the myriad corpse giant they had encountered before, disintegrating. Evidently, Wang Fusong had also instantly connected the dots, just like Shu Bai. Frowning deeply, he asked, "What's going on now? Did we just happen to witness the Immortal Alliance taking action against the corpse giant?" He and Dongfang Yao were puzzled, but Li Fan vaguely guessed the reason. Is this a sign that the principle of life and death is being reversed again? Li Fan's heart skipped a beat. Counting the days, even if Lan Yu could take some more life-extending treasures, he's almost reached the end of his lifespan. It seems he ultimately chose this path. But in such a short time, he's actually been able to resolve the embodiment of the reversed principle of life and death. Is Lan Yu that strong? A hint of doubt flashed through Li Fan's mind. Or is there other assistance? Although Shu Bai wasn't yet entirely clear on how the reversal of the principles of heaven and earth and its impact on all things were achieved. The event unfolding before them, the disintegration of the once freely moving corpse giant, undoubtedly demonstrated that two opposing forces were clashing. It doesn't necessarily mean that Lan Yu has gained the advantage in the confrontation. It only means that the Changsheng Celestial Venerable who reversed life and death might have been caught off guard by Lan Yu's counterattack. After all, he should have only recently reversed the principle and hasn't had time to complete the theorem step. Without truly entering the Changsheng realm, the gap with He Dao doesn't seem as huge as imagined. As Li Fan pondered, the rain of corpses finally subsided slowly. Wang Fusong and Dongfang Yao looked at the countless corpses disappearing into the depths below the white mist, their expressions uncertain. Damn it, this white mist is getting more and more bizarre, Dongfang Yao muttered softly. After a brief rest, the three continued their journey into the white mist, searching for traces of the lost domain. At that moment, in Tianliang province, Xu Bai, who had been chatting happily with the envoys from other provinces, suddenly excused himself and left. Returning to the Tianshuan mirror, he began searching for clues related to, contending with the principles of heaven and earth. Everything was quiet, seemingly without any abnormalities. But this was precisely the greatest anomaly. Even the depths of the white mist were affected by the clash between the two sides, let alone the Xuanwang realm itself. There were bound to be some events defying common sense, but they were intentionally concealed by the Immortal Alliance. Xu Bai pondered for a moment, exited the Tianshuan mirror, and contacted Lu San. He instructed him to temporarily stop refining pills and ordered the Yaowang sect cultivators in various places to inquire about any strange occurrences around them. The Yaowang sect disciples' consciousnesses were connected in one place through the great dream of spring and autumn formation, and their actions were very swift. In less than half a day, news from various provinces was continuously transmitted to Xu Bai. A cultivator rushed out of the white mist, attacking everything in sight indiscriminately as if mad. And he was fearless of death. Before the Immortal Alliance cultivators could kill him, he collapsed on his own. Upon closer inspection, it was discovered that the cultivator was already a corpse. In Tianlin province, a golden core cultivator died violently during the formation of his core. Even the falling phenomenon from the sky above had already formed, and his friend was preparing to collect his body. However, this person suddenly came back to life. The phenomenon stopped abruptly, and the clouds in the sky seemed very unwilling, lingering for a long time. Interesting, Xu Bai's eyes flickered slightly. In Taihua province, there was a pair of Taoist companions. The wife had already died a long time ago, but the husband was unwilling to accept the fact and kept his beloved wife's body frozen and preserved. Not long ago, this affectionate person suddenly appeared in front of everyone with a female cultivator. Originally, they thought he had finally come to his senses and found another Taoist companion. But upon closer inspection, they discovered that the female cultivator beside him was none other than his wife who had been dead for many years. However, her eyes were somewhat dull, her actions were abnormal, and she didn't remember her friends from her lifetime. As Xu Bai read on, his expression gradually became solemn. Because, apart from the initial rumors of some seemingly alive but not alive people suddenly losing their ability to move, more and more cases of resurrection began to occur in various places. Not limited to one province, the entire territory of the Myriad Immortal Alliance was like this. Even not just the Myriad Immortal Alliance, but also the Five Elders Association. Xu Bai's expression was solemn. Is this because Lan Yu intervened, and the Celestial Venerable of Life and Death is starting to accelerate the theorem? According to Xu Bai's knowledge, there were no signs of battle in Yuandao province, where Lan Yu was located. Instead of resolving this competitor through battle, he directly used the reversal of principles to crush him with overwhelming force. Xu Bai narrowed his eyes. It seems that this Celestial Venerable of Life and Death didn't take Lan Yu to heart at all. He didn't even have the interest to attack him. He only needs to proceed step by step with his own process of proving Changsheng, and Lan Yu, who is blocking his path, is truly like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. He will only be crushed to pieces. Xu Bai seemed to have already heard Lan Yu's roar after failing to prove his Tao. Perhaps the ending will come soon, just wait patiently. Continuing to have the Yaowang sect disciples collect information, Xu Bai simply sealed the communication talisman to prevent outside interference. He only focused on observing the progress of the matter. Sure enough, as he expected, more and more signs of resurrection finally alerted the Immortal Alliance cultivators. Anxious discussions grew more and more frequent, eventually leading to a statement from the Myriad Immortal Alliance. Cultivators of the Myriad Immortal Alliance, please remember this great day. After many years, our Myriad Immortal Alliance is about to welcome a new Changsheng Celestial Venerable. Humans cannot be resurrected after death. This is the principle of heaven and earth. But from now on, this established fact will be completely rewritten. Reversing the principle of death and life, the Celestial Venerable is named Rebirth. Therefore, do not panic. Celebrate to your heart's content. Under the divine power of the Rebirth Celestial Venerable, all fallen cultivators can be resurrected after 18 years. And they can also retain their memories from their previous lives. A brand new era has arrived. After the announcement was released, the cultivators all over the world were immediately stunned. Then shock, doubt, fear. All kinds of emotions erupted together. The myriad Immortal Alliance branches in each province were surrounded by cultivators. They couldn't wait to know the details of reincarnation. What kind of way would the so-called resurrection be? However, the officials in various places were also confused about this matter and knew nothing. So, they could only try to control the order, waiting for the day when the answer would finally be revealed. 729. Rebirth stands in the sky. The world changes so fast. Old relics like us are finding it hard to keep up with the times. Nangong Sharong looked up at the 14 countdown displayed in the sky, sighing silently. Shu Bai stood behind him, smiling as he said, "Lord, there's no need to worry." Who would have thought that a celestial venerable capable of reversing the principles of heaven and earth would suddenly appear so unexpectedly? Extremely mysterious, with no background that can be traced. It's truly unbelievable. Even a nascent soul cultivator couldn't just pop out of nowhere like this, right? Shu Bai said with a sigh. Nangong Sharong nodded slightly. So now everyone outside is speculating that this rebirth celestial venerable is likely an ancient cultivator who survived the great calamity. Just like you. Nangong Sharong glanced at Shu Bai and said slowly. Shu Bai lowered his head and thought, an ancient cultivator, huh? All the cultivators in the world were extremely curious about the true identity of this rebirth celestial venerable. However, after so much investigation, not a single piece of information about him was leaked. After all, the number of Tao integration cultivators in the Immortal Alliance was limited. After eliminating them one by one, if no suitable candidate could be found, then it was highly likely that this newly advanced celestial venerable came from the ancient times, hiding in the mists and observing the principles of heaven and earth. Only recently did he successfully attain enlightenment. As for the possibility that the rebirth celestial venerable was a cultivator from the Five Old Ones. The Five Old Ones' recent frequent movements denied this hypothesis. First, they officially issued a statement congratulating the birth of the new celestial venerable. Then, they quickly recalled all the cultivators who were originally conducting friendly visits within the territory of the myriad Immortal Alliance. All the living forces in the border areas were shrinking back. Obviously, the Five Old Ones were very wary of the birth of this new longevity realm expert. Lord City Master, do you think that under the protection of the rebirth celestial venerable's power, cultivators can really be resurrected after they die? After a long silence, Shu Bai suddenly asked. Personally, I am skeptical about this. Although the celestial venerable's divine power is respectable and awe-inspiring, the matter of resurrection is still too mysterious. Nangong Sharong shook his head and said, even if it can be achieved, I'm afraid certain conditions must be met. If a cultivator has already died without a complete corpse and their soul has dissipated, wanting to resurrect in this situation. Nangong Sharong snorted coldly. Not to mention a longevity celestial venerable, even the legendary Grand Golden Immortal would probably be powerless. But what exactly will happen will be revealed in 14 days. You and I just need to wait patiently. Hearing this, Shu Bai focused his gaze on the numbers visible to everyone in the sky. The font seemed both black and white, naturally flowing, quietly floating in the sky. According to the official explanation of the Myriad Immortal Alliance, the countdown represented the rebirth celestial venerable's process of reversing the principles. When the countdown reached 0, the principles of life and death in the Xuanwang world would be completely reversed. The era where everyone can be resurrected would also arrive. Let's see what methods this rebirth celestial venerable has. Shu Bai narrowed his eyes and took out a folding fan, gently fanning himself. While the countdown in the sky of the Xuanwang world was constantly decreasing. The loser of the principle reversing contention, Lan Yu, did not seem willing to accept his fate. He didn't stop the reward for extending life treasures, but instead increased the stakes. He even took out the open double-angle bracket heavenly capital feather transformation art close double-angle bracket that he practiced as a reward. It seemed that Lan Yu was trying his best to delay the arrival of his deadline. However, that rebirth celestial venerable did not intend to let him go. On the day when the countdown became 1, the phenomenon of a Tao integration cultivator's fall suddenly appeared above Yuan Daozhou. Tao integration cultivator Lan Yu, a mortal cultivator. Unlike the heaven and earth morning that Li Fan had seen in previous lives, perhaps because Lan Yu had taken the action of reversing the principles of heaven and earth in this life, the sky had the same falling phenomenon as the new law cultivators. But this scene had just appeared not long ago, before the cultivators in Yuan Daozhou could react. The countdown number on the sky of the Xuanwang world turned into black and white intertwined energy, heading straight for Yuan Daozhou. While covering up the phenomenon of Lan Yu's fall, the number also instantly returned to 0 from 1. The entire Xuanwang world was trembling slightly, as if some wonderful change was taking place. When the sky became clear again, all the cultivators could vaguely see an ancient and solemn mansion appearing on the sky of the Xuanwang world. Rebirth Mansion. The 3 large characters on the mansion's plaque were clearly visible. All the cultivators who saw the Rebirth Mansion naturally had information about the Rebirth Celestial Venerable's resurrection appear in their minds. Under the shroud of the Rebirth Mansion, all cultivators would have a trace of their true spirit invested in the Rebirth Mansion when they fell. Waiting until the 18-year reincarnation period arrived, the true spirit carrying the cultivator's memory could return to the world from the Rebirth Mansion. If they had prepared a body for themselves in advance, then they could directly invest in it. If they died in a hurry and didn't have time to prepare, then they would be randomly born in the bodies of newly born creatures in the Xuanwang world. After seeing the details of the Rebirth Mansion, the Xuanwang world cultivators were immediately in an uproar. They didn't expect that the so-called resurrection was actually real. But this method of resurrection was a bit beyond what they could accept. Survival and reproduction are human instincts. If there is no hope for the path of cultivation, one can entrust the future to the next generation. But according to the rules of the Rebirth Mansion, the newborn child regarded as a treasure by the family might be occupied by a cultivator who fell 18 years ago. What is the difference between this and body snatching? Who can guarantee that the cultivators who died in the past and are now resurrected have no grudges against them? If you painstakingly raise a newborn child, but he turns around and stabs you when he grows up, what can you do? Everything you have accumulated will be cheaper for an outsider in the future. How absurd is that? The operation of the Rebirth Mansion is obviously contrary to the current ethical values of cultivators. The Xuanwang cultivators could not accept it for a while. Fortunately, more detailed explanations from the myriad Immortal Alliance soon arrived. In the Rebirth Mansion, the true spirit will only preserve the memories of the previous life. All emotions such as love, hate, and resentment from the previous life will be washed away. Looking back on the experiences of the previous life is like a dream. There will not be too much involvement. Moreover, the true spirit's rebirth is not directly seizing the body. Instead, the two merge with each other. The essence of life has not changed, but there is an extra, previous life, memory. After some explanation, although the Xuanwang world cultivators still had resistance in their hearts, the general trend was unstoppable, and the principles of the Celestial Venerable could not be violated. Whether they were willing or not, they could only choose to accept it silently. As a result, heated discussions about rebirth and resurrection slowly unfolded throughout the Xuanwang world. 730. Decree of the Life and Death Lord. Have you heard? It's rumored that the Rebirth Palace has a secret method to prevent resurrected true spirits from occupying the bodies of their descendants. I've had people inquire about it, and it seems there is indeed such a thing. However, it's easy to foresee that the price for obtaining this secret method will be extremely high. Those prominent families, in order to maintain the purity of their descendants, will spare no expense to achieve it. In my opinion, fellow Taoists, there's no need to be overly resistant. The existence of this Rebirth Palace may be a good thing for us. Oh, how so? Think about it, we can be resurrected after 18 years anyway. If you feel that your talent in this life is limited and there's no hope for cultivation, you can simply commit suicide. Maybe you'll be reborn into a good family in the next life, and your new body will be exceptionally talented. This naive remark immediately drew ridicule from other cultivators. Fellow Taoist, have you had too much spiritual wine? Even if you have such good luck, have you considered why resurrection requires waiting 18 years? Are the true spirits of cultivators who died during these 18 years really reincarnated completely randomly? I bet there's something unknown and fishy going on. I think he makes a point. Fellow Taoists, think about it, our talents are mediocre, and there's no hope of rising in this life. Even if we have descendants, they're destined to be beasts of burden, oppressed by others. That's why I've never considered having offspring before. But now, it might be worth a gamble. It's not just about how amazing my child's fused true spirit was in its previous life. Just having a lifetime of cultivation experience out of nowhere is already an unparalleled treasure. If we're lucky and it's a reincarnation of a great power, then I'll be able to rely on my son, HMPH. Hiss, what you're saying makes sense. Similar debates were happening all over the Xuanwang world. Shu Bai, through Nangong Shirong, learned more details about the rebirth palace. The rumors are true, there really is a secret method to prevent newborns from being fused with true spirits. However, 8 million contribution points, and it needs to be applied in advance while still in the mother's womb. It's really damn expensive. This old man hasn't saved up that much even after working hard in Tianling Prefecture for so many years. There's also the rebirth mirror, which can peek into the memories of the newborn's fused true spirit. If you're not satisfied, hiss. The true spirit guide placed on a pre-prepared body can increase the accuracy of your true spirit's reincarnation into the designated body. The perfect shell in the rebirth palace can perfectly replicate your current body. In order to achieve a perfect resurrection in the next life, the soul stabilizer allows the true spirit to retain its previous life's emotions during the 18 years of cleansing in the rebirth palace. The rebirth edict: no need to wait 18 years. A trace of true spirit can be resurrected immediately after death. Shu Bai and Nangong Shirong looked at the contents of the jade slip in front of them, their expressions different. There are so many fancy things. Each one is priced sky high, ordinary people can't afford them. Nangong Shirong cursed inwardly. But that rebirth edict is really a good thing. Paired with the perfect shell, wouldn't it be like having another life? No, if there are enough contribution points, it's basically immortal, able to be resurrected infinitely. He exclaimed. I just don't know if there are any other restrictions. Shu Bai's eyes flickered, nodding in agreement. All kinds of situations have been considered. It seems that the Myriad Immortals Alliance has been prepared for a long time. It may bring some commotion, but I believe cultivators will be able to adapt quickly. Shu Bai said after scanning all the items listed in the jade slip. Once longevity is attained, everything changes in an instant. This rebirth Heavenly Lord is truly remarkable. The history of the Xuanwang world is about to usher in a new era. Nangong Shirong said with emotion. I just don't know what the situation is with the Five Elders Association. Can the rebirth Heavenly Lord's divine power cover their side? Shu Bai suddenly asked. Nangong Shirong hesitated, I'm not sure. However, I heard that a certain transaction was reached, and it's only being piloted in a small area. Shu Bai's eyes flickered slightly. Since then, the cultivators of the Xuanwang world gradually adapted to the existence of the rebirth palace in the sky. And not long after, the first resurrection case was born. A golden core cultivator named Examen Yang, in full view of the public, detonated himself and died, his soul scattered. But soon after, he reappeared alive in the public eye. His form and behavior were the same as before. He even remembered his self-detonation, boasting to everyone about his experience of self-detonation, death, and rebirth. The news spread quickly, which made the cultivators who were originally skeptical about rebirth become convinced. And as cases of cultivators being reborn continued to appear on the land of the Myriad Immortals Alliance, the existence of rebirth was slowly accepted by the public. In the devouring Yuan white mist, even through the vast white mist, the three could faintly see the looming rebirth palace above their heads. Damn it, now cultivators aren't afraid of death, there are so many people even in the depths of the white mist. Dongfang Yao cursed angrily, but before he could finish speaking, he saw a universal truth arc whizzing past him. Aren't you talking nonsense? With the rebirth Heavenly Lord, everyone can be resurrected, what's there to be afraid of death? At worst, you'll be a good man again in 18 years. Wang Fusong sneered. I don't believe in any rebirth palace, there must be something fishy going on. Think about it, they say they preserve a trace of memory. Even if you're resurrected, you're fused with someone else, are you still you? Even if you have a pre-prepared body to achieve the so-called resurrection. But I did die at the time. What's reborn is just another person with the same memories as me. Dongfang Yao said seriously. Brothers, don't be deceived by it, you still have to cherish your lives. He warned. Dongfang, when did your head become so bright? What you're saying seems to make some sense. Wang Fusong frowned slightly, thinking. Listening to the two arguing, Li Fan's mind was thinking about something else. In the previous life, this rebirth Heavenly Lord never appeared in the world, let alone this rebirth palace. The reversed principles of heaven and earth should have become the world's natural laws, like the carefree Heavenly Lord naturally integrated, seamless. Now this reversal of life and death needs to rely on the rebirth palace. Does this mean that this rebirth Heavenly Lord has not actually reached the most perfect ideal state? It's just a hasty and helpless move influenced by Lan Yu. 731. The end of the maze. Of course, all of this was just Li Fan's speculation. Li Fan's understanding of the defiance of natural laws and the struggle for immortality was still too superficial. He could only analyze and judge based on the different historical evolution directions of the Xuanwang world that he had experienced. He could only glimpse its appearance, but not grasp its essence. Perhaps only when he truly reached the realm of defying natural laws could he truly understand what had happened in the Xuanwang world during this period. While Li Fan was pondering, the dispute between Wangfu and Dongfang barely reached a consensus. They should not act recklessly because of the Reincarnation Palace's resurrection methods, and they still needed to cherish their lives. However, if they had sufficient resources, they might as well purchase some treasures such as soul-cleansing pills and reincarnation edicts as a last resort. After all, life and death are unpredictable, and no one can guarantee that they will not suddenly fall for some reason. It's always better to be prepared than not. The resurrected cultivators who have appeared now are still a very small number. I really don't know what kind of impact it will have on the Xuanwang world when a large number of fallen cultivators are reborn 18 years later, Wang Fusong said with emotion. I don't know what it will be like in the future, but what is obvious is that the day when the white mist barrier is completely explored is not far away. Dongfang Yao snorted, watching another Puxian true arc speeding past him. Brother Li, if you want to exchange for the Doomsday Stone Disc, you'd better hurry up. Soon, after completing one more mystic domain, I'll have 100,000 Azure Profound points. Li Fan nodded, carefully distinguishing the sounds coming from the depths of the white mist, and constantly adjusting the direction of advancement. Deep into the white mist, on this day, Li Fan once again captured the sound of Heavenly Physician. However, this time, the sound seemed a bit strange compared to usual. It was as if something was interfering with and distorting the transmission of the sound, and what Li Fan heard was almost completely unlike Heavenly Physician anymore. If he hadn't traveled through the mystic domain during this period and heard the wails of Heavenly Physician too many times, Li Fan would hardly have been able to distinguish it. After pondering for a moment, Li Fan did not act rashly. When Wangfu and Dongfang saw Li Fan stop, they quickly asked the reason. After some explanation, Wangfu and Dongfang said in unison, "Our brothers have gone through thick and thin together, so there is no need to be afraid even if there is any danger. Besides, we can still be resurrected now. Brother Li doesn't need to worry, just go for it." It seemed that although they said that the resurrection was suspicious and needed to be treated with caution, they actually had a lot more confidence in their hearts. After all, they could be resurrected. Li Fan showed a hint of a smile. "Okay, since both brothers have said so, let's break into this mystic domain," Li Fan said in a deep voice, immediately manipulating the flying boat and speeding towards the direction of the distorted sound. After an unknown amount of time, as if crossing an indistinguishable boundary, the Puxian true arc suddenly stopped without warning. "What's wrong, Brother Li?" Wangfu and Dongfang looked at Li Fan with some surprise. "I didn't do it," Li Fan explained. The three looked at each other, and their expressions couldn't help but become serious. They scanned around with their divine sense, but found nothing unusual around the flying boat. But they couldn't find the reason why it stopped for no reason. Li Fan thought for a while, took out the Black Death talisman to protect his body, and flew out of the Puxian true arc. He wanted to go around and see with his own eyes what was outside. There was nothing to be found above, in front, behind, left, or right. But when Li Fan flew to the lower part of the ship, the scene he saw made his pupils shrink. Black, viscous objects, like long tentacles, stretched out from the white mist below, and the ends stuck to the bottom of the Puxian true arc. This black unknown substance seemed to be alive, making a rustling sound, wriggling and slowly expanding around. Li Fan seemed to be able to hear them, crawling, on the bottom of the ship. This is. Divine sense was completely unable to sense it, and could only be distinguished with the naked eye. Li Fan flicked a ball of flame, trying to burn off the black tentacles sticking to the ship. But he was stunned to find that the flames seemed to be in a different space from them. No matter how strong the flames were, they could not cause the slightest impact on the black tentacles. Li Fan also sent out a sword chi, but it was still the same. It was as if they didn't exist at all, and the sword light flew through the black tentacles and flew into the distance. The viscous black substance was still firmly stuck to the ship, with no sign of breaking. Li Fan did not return for a long time, and there were also fluctuations of spiritual energy. Wang Fu and Dongfang couldn't sit still, and the two flew out of the ship together, also seeing this strange scene. They tried various methods, but still couldn't cut off the black tentacles. We can only go down and see where it comes from, Wang Fusong suggested. Saying that, he took out the measuring heaven mirror and covered his head. Sure enough, we have entered a new mystic domain, and no one else has set foot in it yet, he said with a bit of joy. There are still 3 Puxian true arcs as backups, but before we figure out what this thing is, it's better not to take them out. Otherwise, if they get entangled again, I'm afraid we'll have to fly out of the white mist with our physical bodies, Dongfang Yao suggested. Li Fan gave the two a reassurance. It doesn't matter, I have plenty of Black Death talismans here. Even without the Puxian true arc, relying entirely on the protection of the talismans is enough for us to return safely. Wang Fu and Dongfang praised him after hearing this. Brother Li is still doing things properly. Since there were no worries, the three immediately decided to explore downwards along the long black tentacles. They didn't fly fast, but the viscous black substance was unexpectedly long. It took them a full cup of tea to find its source. Facing the scene in front of them, the three were all speechless. A huge black sphere, like a sarcoma, hung quietly in the air. It was also formed by countless black viscous substances. Hundreds of tentacles shot out from the sarcoma, flying in different directions of the white mist, not knowing what they had stuck to. At first glance, it looked like a black aerial giant net, holding the circular black ball in the center. Can you sense its existence with your divine sense? Wang Fusong asked with a somewhat nervous expression, transmitting his voice through divine sense. Li Fan closed his eyes. In his perception, the front was empty and nothing existed. Opening his eyes, the black sphere came into view again. No, Li Fan shook his head slightly, his expression serious. Forget it, let's not disturb this thing. Let's explore this mystic domain and then withdraw. This strange scene made Dongfang Yao, who had always been bold, feel a little apprehensive, and suggested immediately. Li Fan stared at the black sphere for a long time, and nodded slightly. Anything that can shield the perception of divine sense is definitely not an ordinary thing. It's better to be careful. 732. Wang Fu explodes his relics. However, things didn't go as planned. After Li Fan and the others had explored the entire maze, but still couldn't find an exit. They had no choice but to return to the black sphere once again. It seems that if we want to get out, we still have to find a way from this thing, Wang Fusong said with a grim expression. The exit isn't inside this thing, is it? Dongfang Yao shuddered. What exactly is this black sphere? You two are knowledgeable, do you have any clues? Li Fan asked, staring at the front for a long time. I do know some things that divine sense can't perceive. But it's clearly not related to this thing. Both Dongfang and Wang Fu were at a loss. After another moment of silence, the black talisman light above Li Fan's head gradually weakened, indicating that its energy was exhausted. It's not a solution to just stay here, let's test its reality first. Taking out a new talisman and replacing the old one, Li Fan first flew to the tentacles spewing out from the black sphere and gently touched them. Like an illusion, Li Fan's palm grasped nothing. Like something that doesn't exist. But why can it stick to the Puxian true arc? The three looked at each other, completely puzzled. After hesitating for a moment, Li Fan protected his body and flew straight towards the huge black sphere. Wang Fu and Dongfang hesitated for a moment, but immediately followed. The constantly wriggling black viscous substance gathered together, filling the entire field of vision, bringing a huge sense of oppression. Suppressing the throbbing in their hearts, the three endured their discomfort and drilled into the interior of the black sphere. Although they couldn't touch these black substances with their divine sense or limbs, after their bodies were completely wrapped by them, a real and strange feeling emerged. It was like having cold reptiles all over their bodies, wet, greasy, and disgusting. But fortunately, apart from the feeling in their hearts, these viscous black substances didn't seem to have any other harm. The three walked step by step towards the central area, as if walking in a muddy swamp. After an unknown amount of time, some changes finally appeared in the black sea that surrounded them. In front of them, something seemed to be emitting a faint light. Quick, the front should be the exit. Wang Fusong transmitted excitedly with his divine sense. Just as Li Fan and Dongfang Yao were about to respond, the originally calm black sea suddenly became turbulent. Those black viscous substances instantly seemed to come alive, rushing frantically towards Wang Fusong. and they were originally supposed to be non-existent things that the body couldn't touch, but at this moment, they seemed to have found a vent, pouring into Wang Fusang's body through his 7 orifices. Wu, his face showed an expression of extreme horror, and his body gradually swelled up like a balloon. Save me. Unable to make a sound with his mouth, Wang Fusang transmitted with his divine sense, asking his 2 companions for help. But this had the opposite effect, and the speed of the black substance pouring in became even faster. Wang Fusang's face showed a ferocious and painful expression. Magical treasures emerged from his body one after another, and he even took out the disintegration disc, instantly setting up a circle of formations around him. But it was all in vain. In a flash, his body had swelled more than 10 times. Bang! Finally, under the horrified gaze of Li Fan and Dongfang Yao, he exploded. No flesh and blood flew, only a large amount of black viscous substance was formed, spraying towards the surroundings. Logically speaking, cultivators above the nascent soul stage, even if their physical bodies were destroyed, could be resurrected in an instant as long as their cave heaven was not destroyed. But at this moment, something that frightened the 2 of them happened. After waiting for a while, Wang Fusang's physical body still didn't regenerate. Instead, they seemed to feel a speck of light, breaking through the air and flying away, not knowing where it was going. This is death. Li Fan was suddenly stunned. Wang Fu. Dongfang Yao's eyes were bloodshot, and he rushed forward, trying to find Wang Fusang's traces. But in the same place, he only found the measuring heaven mirror, disintegration disc, and other items that Wang Fusang carried with him. Other than that, not even a single hair was left. Replaying what had just happened in his mind, a guess suddenly floated into Li Fan's mind. These black viscous substances, perhaps are substantialized divine sense. Startled, Li Fan shouted, "Brother Dongfang, remember, don't let your divine sense leave your body. Verbal communication is enough." Dongfang Yao also instantly understood something, and his face turned pale. Li Fan flew to Dongfang Yao's side and collected Wang Fusang's belongings. Then he said in a low voice, "This place is not suitable to stay for long, let's go." He grabbed Dongfang Yao and took him flying towards the center of the divine sense black sphere. Outside the black sphere just now, the aggregates of divine sense were relatively scattered. So even if they used their own divine sense to pry, it didn't cause any special reaction. But inside this black sphere, the divine sense had become so dense that it was shocking. Wang Fusang rashly transmitted with his divine sense, and immediately stirred up a hornet's nest, causing these condensed divine senses to find a breakthrough. Before Wang Fusang could resist, it poured into his sea of consciousness. Even with the toughness of a god transformation cultivator's divine soul, it was impossible to withstand such a massive infusion of divine sense. He was instantly burst open, and his soul was scattered. Dongfang Yao was filled with grief, and was also startled into a cold sweat. If he had been the one to let his divine sense leave his body first. Li Fan took Dongfang Yao, passed through the central glowing layer, and entered a relatively empty interior space. Although there was no substantial black divine sense formed here, there were transparent faces floating around. Joy, anger, sorrow, fear. The expressions on countless faces were different, but none of them had eyes. Like schools of fish, they wandered and swam around here. Dongfang Yao was frightened and avoided these passing transparent faces. Li Fan reached out and casually grabbed one of the faces, absorbing it. After a moment, a blurry image appeared in his mind. Howls and cries came from all directions. Under the blood-colored sky, the shadow representing death quickly devoured all the living beings it encountered. But like being blindfolded, these scenes could only be seen in general terms. When the shadow came from the horizon to the front, everything went dark, and the picture in his mind suddenly shattered. Li Fan carefully sensed it, unsure whether his divine soul and divine sense strength had increased. But the sudden disappearance of the transparent face caused the other beings here to notice. They seemed to become a little restless, and the speed of their wandering became faster and faster. After thinking for a moment, he didn't act rashly again. Go. Taking Dongfang Yao, Li Fan found the exit of the maze at the top of the space, where the light was brightest. There was a blur before his eyes, and after a moment, the two returned to the outside of the maze. Brother Wangfu. At this time, Dongfang Yao reacted and cried out in grief. 733. The stone plate is finally obtained. Brother Dongfang, there's no need to be overly saddened. Although Brother Wangfu suffered a tragic misfortune, fortunately, we now have the rebirth sanctuary. He still has a chance to be resurrected, Li Fan sighed and comforted him. He then summoned a new Park Yun Jin boat and pulled Dongfang Yao, who was still immersed in grief, into it. Afterward, he released the quantifying heaven mirror. Once the exploration records of the divine sense maze were synchronized, Li Fan looked at his just over 100,000 azure profound points and the doomsday stone disk that had not yet been redeemed. He directly chose to exchange it. The azure profound points that had been accumulated for a long time were instantly emptied. Then, with a faint white glow, a heavy gray disk appeared in Li Fan's hand. This thing is the doomsday stone disk. Only the size of a palm, Li Fan held it in his hand, tossed it up and down, and studied it for a moment. It was indeed like its name, no different from an ordinary stone. Neither divine sense nor spiritual power could produce any reaction with it. I wonder how the Overturning Heaven Society in the previous life researched its method of use. However, Li Fan also knew that this matter could not be rushed. He had plenty of time to figure it out in this life. He temporarily put it away and took out the relics of Wang Fusong that he had collected earlier, arranging them in front of him one by one. In addition to the quantifying heaven mirror and the dissolving disc, there were also 2 storage rings. Brother Dongfang, do you know if Wang Fu has any close relatives still alive? Li Fan asked. Dongfang Yao's mind calmed down a little, and he shook his head slightly. Like me, he is unattached and alone. Li Fan frowned upon hearing this, then these things. Dongfang Yao only glanced at them and decided, Brother Li, you risked your life to retrieve Wang Fu's relics, so please keep them for now. When we find Wang Fu's reincarnation in the future, we will give them to him. Li Fan sighed softly, that's all we can do. But the Xuanwang realm is so vast, I don't know where Wang Fu will be reincarnated in 18 years. If he is still within the Immortal Alliance, that's easy to handle. At most, it will take some effort to find him. I'm just afraid that he will be reincarnated into the 5 old men's side. The rebirth sanctuary has so many fancy things, there must be something that can track the approximate location of the true spirit's reincarnation. Since Brother Wang Fu is dead, I don't want to explore the white mist anymore. After I go back, I will inquire about this matter. I will definitely find Brother Wang Fu as soon as possible, Dongfang Yao said in a deep voice. I'll also ask someone. Brother Shuafeng might know, Li Fan also suggested. Next, the 2 returned from the depths of the white mist. They first came to the universe abode in Tianyu Prefecture and informed them of Wang Fusong's unfortunate death. Li Fan had also met the receiving cultivator once, it was Shang Guanxi, who was thin. After all, they had been colleagues for many years. Shang Guanxi looked sad after hearing the news and sighed, I will tell Dingji about this matter. Thank you both. Dongfang Yao looked ashamed and felt that he had no face to stay any longer. He cupped his hands and left in a hurry. After leaving the universe abode, he also bid farewell to Li Fan. After leaving a communication talisman, he went to inquire about the relevant information about the rebirth sanctuary. This Dongfang Yao is a sentimental person, Li Fan thought to himself, watching the other parties gradually disappearing back. He did not return to the Longevity Valley, but went straight to Tianquan Prefecture. During the time he was exploring the White Mist, Shuafeng had repeatedly sent messages, inviting him to fight. However, he refused on the grounds that he was trapped in the White Mist and could not get away. In any case, he was nominally a guest elder of the Zan family. Although Shuafeng did not say anything on the surface, seeing that he refused 3 times and 5 times, the other party's tone inevitably changed slightly. So Li Fan contacted him as soon as he was free. After all, it seems that the identity of the Zan family's guest elder is still useful. It is not a troublesome thing to maintain the status of guest elder with just a few competitions. Shuafeng is currently in the other courtyard in Tianquan City. Also given by his mother, Immortal Venerable Feishui, although the area here is smaller than Shuafeng Mountain in the suburbs, the price is more than 10 times higher. Moreover, even with contribution points, it is impossible to buy without certain channels. Arriving at the cave area in the center of Tianquan City, one can look up and see the core location of the towering government hall in the city. A female cultivator in a red dress is already waiting outside. It was not the female cultivator Ji Jin in the yellow dress before, but a different face. Li Fan remained calm and followed behind the female cultivator in the red dress into the other courtyard. It's really depressing. Now that there is a rebirth sanctuary, all cultivators can be resurrected, but my mother still has many restrictions on me. Shuafeng's somewhat annoyed voice could be heard from afar. The female cultivator in the red dress did not have any expression fluctuations on her face, as if she did not hear Shuofeng's complaint at all. She just brought Li Fan there, saluted, and left on her own. Haha, brother Li, long time no see. Sensing Li Fan's aura, Shuofeng was overjoyed. However, what greeted Li Fan was not a warm embrace, but a white sword light. Li Fan's eyes flashed, and as his mind turned, he generated a blue water sword in front of him to block it. Boom! In the explosion, Li Fan said loudly, "Congratulations, Brother Shuo, for solving the problem of not being able to attack first. It seems that my silk extraction supernatural power is no longer Brother Shuo's opponent." Flying to Shuofeng, after seeing the situation in the field clearly, a strange color flashed in Li Fan's eyes. Shuofeng was still wearing plain clothes, but a cyan willow leaf flying knife hung above his head. The tip of the knife was not facing the opponent, but was aimed directly at Shuofeng's head below. Haha, Brother Li, what do you think of my method? Since sword is unwilling to contribute first, then I will force it to act. With the flying blade above my head, my life hangs by a thread. It is integrated with me, and when it is threatened, it will naturally counterattack instinctively. I will then control the sword light it cuts out to defend against the enemy. Shuofeng glanced at the flying knife above his head and said quite triumphantly. To be able to come up with such a wonderful method, Brother Shuo is truly a genius. Li Fan praised him according to his words. At the same time, he looked at a cultivator sitting next to Shuofeng. Sword eyebrows and starry eyes, heroic and extraordinary. Although there is still some gap compared with Shu Bai's peerless appearance, he can also be regarded as a dragon among men. Although Li Fan met him for the first time in this life, he was no stranger to him. It was the array genius, Tan Tai Dao, who died in the array training camp in the previous life. The accident did not happen in this life, so he is still alive. Who is this? Li Fan looked at Shuofeng and asked knowingly. Brother Tantai is a rare array genius in this world, you can make friends with him. Shuofeng briefly introduced Li Fan. Nice to meet you. Tan Tai Dao looked at Li Fan with a gentle expression and greeted him. After some pleasantries, the three chatted about the topic of the rebirth sanctuary. 734. The transformation of the heavenly mysterious mirror. I originally intended to stay in the white mist for a while longer, but Wang Fusong, who was traveling with me, unfortunately perished. Seeing my companion of many days die so tragically before my eyes, I was deeply moved. Li Fan sighed, his face full of emotion. You know, Wang Fusong's cultivation was even a greater realm above mine, yet he died so inexplicably. Truly, life and death are impermanent. So, all greed in my heart vanished, and I returned directly. Fortunately, with the power of the rebirth Heavenly Lord, Wang Fu has a chance to be resurrected. Hearing that Li Fan had struggled to return from the white mist, a hint of contempt flickered almost imperceptibly in Tan Tai Dao's eyes. Shuo Feng, on the other hand, smiled and said, I told you not to go, but you wouldn't listen. For such a small reward, it's really not worth it. Li Fan shook his head slightly. Without Shuo brothers' prominent family background, if I want something, I naturally have to rely on my own efforts. Fortunately, I had good luck. As he spoke, Li Fan took out the Doomsday Stone disc. Immediately, it attracted the attention of Shuo Feng and Tan Tai Dao. Casually handing the stone disc over, Shuo Feng took it in his hand and carefully examined it for a moment, clicking his tongue in wonder. You really have extraordinary luck. As far as I know, quite a few people had their eyes on this thing, but you were the first to exchange for it. But whether it's a gain or a loss, it's hard to say. Unable to see anything special about it, Shuo Feng tossed it to Tan Tai Dao to play with. Tan Tai Dao narrowed his eyes, observed it for a moment, then shook his head slightly and returned it to Li Fan. Did you two see anything? Li Fan asked casually. The Immortal Alliance has already thoroughly researched it and found nothing. How could we possibly detect anything strange in such a short time? Shuo Feng smiled wryly. Tan Tai Dao even said, in my opinion, this thing might just be an ordinary stone. Li Fan shook his head in denial. I think this thing is not ordinary. I'll study it further when I get back. If I really find anything, I'll definitely notify you two immediately. A trace of displeasure flashed in Tan Tai Dao's eyes. But Shuo Feng applauded and praised. Then I'm very much looking forward to it. Tan Tai Dao had no choice but to echo his sentiment. By the way, when I came just now, I heard Brother Shuo say that you were again by the Immortal Venerable. After a moment of silence, Li Fan changed the subject and asked. Shuo Feng waved his hand, his face full of annoyance. Don't mention it. I recently felt something, sensing the opportunity to form my nascent soul. But she just won't let me out, saying she wants to wait a little longer. Being stuck in this small courtyard all day long is really suffocating me, Shuo Feng complained. The Immortal Venerable's actions must have some deeper meaning. Her asking you to wait, could it be that something big is about to happen in the Immortal Alliance? Li Fan did not denigrate Immortal Venerable Fei Shui, but frowned and pondered. I have heard of one thing, Tan Tai Dao suddenly said. Oh, Shuo Feng looked at Tan Tai Dao, intrigued. It is said that the exploration progress of the White Mist Barrier is almost complete. Enough data has been collected, perhaps the Celestial Mystery Mirror is about to usher in. Tan Tai Dao stopped halfway through his sentence. It's okay, Brother Li is a guest elder of my Zan family, feel free to speak. Shuo Feng saw what Tan Tai Dao was worried about at a glance and waved his hand. So Tan Tai Dao continued to explain. The Celestial Mystery Mirror was left by the Heavenly Lord of Transmission, the most miraculous treasure of the Immortal Alliance. Within the Xuanwang realm, everything above and below is reflected in it. Except for the White Mist Barrier. The area within the White Mist is a completely new and unfamiliar existence to the Celestial Mystery Mirror. If the Celestial Mystery Mirror is compared to a cultivator, then its method of cultivation might be to measure the heavens and the earth. However, for thousands of years, it has been stuck in a bottleneck. It has not improved a step further. The Five Elders Council will naturally not allow the Celestial Mystery Mirror to spy on them. Then, the only way for the Celestial Mystery Mirror to take another step forward is to measure the area in the White Mist. If there is enough data, perhaps the Celestial Mystery Mirror can take another step forward, completing its own sublimation and transformation. This is also the reason why the Immortal Alliance is vigorously promoting cultivators to explore the White Mist Barrier this time. Tan Tai Dao spoke eloquently. Shuo Feng couldn't help but say, it seems that your array masters were summoned to the Immortal Alliance headquarters before, and it has something to do with this matter, right? I'm not very clear about these secrets. Tan Tai Dao smiled but did not speak, which was considered a tacit acknowledgement. The current Celestial Mystery Mirror can already be called the foundation of the Immortal Alliance. If it can complete its transformation, a trace of longing flashed in Tan Tai Dao's eyes. Li Fan also said thoughtfully, the transformation of the Celestial Mystery Mirror will definitely have a far-reaching impact on the Immortal Alliance. Immortal Venerable Fei Shui must have her reasons for not letting Brother Shuo out. Brother Shuo, you just need to wait patiently. According to Brother Tantai, that day must be coming soon. Shuo Feng snorted lightly and stopped talking about the matter. The three of them chatted for a while. Finally, under Shuo Feng's strong insistence, Li Fan fought him again. Deliberately slowing down the speed of casting spells, Li Fan was halfway through casting that silk extraction divine power when he was broken by Shuo Feng's sword light. Leaving a sword mark on his body, Li Fan, covered in blood, repeatedly conceded defeat. Shuo Feng laughed loudly and waved his hand to restore the countless blood threads on his body caused by the thin lines. Having broken the silk extraction divine power, Shuo Feng's wish was fulfilled, and he no longer tried to persuade Li Fan to stay. Li Fan stayed for a while longer before bidding farewell and leaving. Leaving Tianquan State and returning to Longevity Valley. Lu San, Fang Ziji, and Zhang Yushan all came to pay their respects. After reporting the number of longevity pills refined, Lu San brought up another matter. By the way, there's news about the cultivator named Zhang Shintong that you asked me to inquire about earlier. Oh, what's the story? Li Fan raised his eyebrows. Lu San's expression was a bit strange. Young master, are you sure this is the cultivator you're looking for? As he spoke, Lu San displayed an image of an old man with white hair. Li Fan narrowed his eyes, it was Zhang Shintong he had met in his previous life. After confirming with a nod, Lu San said in a strange tone, the person has been found, but it is said that this person is already nearing the end of his lifespan, unable to break through the cultivation bottleneck, and has already died. Dead, Li Fan couldn't help but be stunned. Are you sure there's no mistake? Li Fan asked again. Zhang Shintong's life and death mystical art and seven-colored divine light were both rare and unique skills. Those who could master these two arts were definitely not ordinary people. How could he have fallen silently in this life? Lu San smiled bitterly. This matter was personally instructed by you, young master, so I naturally understand its importance. I have already confirmed it from various sources. Zhang Shentong is indeed dead. Hearing this, Li Fan frowned deeply. After thinking for a moment, his brows relaxed again. He thought of the reason why Zhang Shentong might have fallen in this life. It may be precisely because of the existence of the rebirth Heavenly Lord. 735. Zuzan locks the mirror source. Zhang Shentong cultivated the profound life and death art, a peculiar technique that relied on the great terror between life and death for its practice. According to Zhang Shentong himself, he suffered from an extremely severe case of procrastination. Even at the foundation establishment stage, he could only complete breakthroughs when his lifespan was nearing its end, using the immense pressure of impending death. That was before. In this life, because the celestial Venerable of rebirth reversed the principles of life and death and established the rebirth palace, everyone could be resurrected. The pressure brought by death naturally ceased to exist. Anyway, he would be a good man again in 18 years. What did death matter? He could just start over in the next life, so why bother trying so hard? With this kind of defeatist mentality, it was perfectly normal for Zhang Shentong to fail to complete his breakthrough. Thinking of this, Li Fan's face twitched. It seems that the profound life and death art is useless in this life. I just don't know how Zhang Shentong comprehended the seven-colored divine light. Thinking this, he waved his hand and said to Lu San, "Forget it, let him die. Just pretend I didn't mention it." Lu San looked strange but didn't ask any more questions. On the contrary, Fang Ziji praised, "The sect leader is truly open-minded and indifferent to life and death." Li Fan ignored him and then ordered, "Old Lu, the refining of longevity pills can be slowed down for now. Let's sell all the stock we have on hand first." Lu San was stunned for a moment, then quickly reacted, as the era of cultivators exploring the white mist coming to an end. Li Fan nodded. It has been almost 3 years since the Myriad Immortals Alliance officially issued the decree. With the existence of the Rebirth Palace, cultivators are even more fearless of death. I estimate that it won't be long before the exploration is completely finished. We should prepare early. He then looked at Zhang Yushan, who remained expressionless. Elder Zhang has always wanted to go outside and see the world. I have found a way to conceal your true realm and forge an identity with the Myriad Immortals Alliance. As he spoke, Li Fan took out the open black lens bracket Doomsday Stone Disc Close Black Lens Bracket. This item can affect and shield the perception of the Myriad Immortals Alliance's treasure, the Celestial Mystery Mirror, Li Fan said confidently. As soon as Fang Ziji heard this, his eyes lit up. He quickly flew closer, staring intently at the small stone disc in Li Fan's hand. After a moment, he scratched the back of his head and looked at Li Fan. "Sect leader, how do you use this?" Li Fan shrugged, "I don't know. You have to figure it out yourselves." Fang Ziji looked at Li Fan suspiciously. "Sect leader, you wouldn't be unwilling to let little Zhang go out, so you deliberately found such an excuse, right?" Zhang Yushan's gaze swept over Fang Ziji, her eyes revealing a hint of murderous intent. Li Fan smiled, "Hee, I didn't expect Mr. Fang to be wrong sometimes. Although this stone disc looks inconspicuous, it is actually a secondary form of the Celestial Mystery Mirror. But I can't blame you. Although Mr. Fang claims to be knowledgeable, the Xuanwang world has been around for so many years. It's normal to be a little out of touch with the times." Fang Ziji's eyes widened, a secondary form of the Celestial Mystery Mirror. He snatched the Doomsday Stone disc, studying it as if he had obtained a treasure. At the same time, he kept muttering to himself, "This is a good thing." Li Fan allowed Fang Ziji to take the stone disc without stopping him. Thinking of the Annihilation Stone disc used by the Overturning Heaven Society in his previous life, Li Fan reminded him, "Maybe this thing itself doesn't have any special features, but if you cut a small part of it, it might produce some unexpected changes." Fang Ziji nodded, not knowing if he had heard it. He was just staring at the Doomsday Stone disc, completely engrossed. "Once Mr. Fang has results from his research, Old Lu and you can go out openly in the future," Li Fan said with a smile to Zhang Yushan. Okay, I will definitely keep an eye on Old Fang." Lu San was overjoyed. Zhang Yushan looked at the Doomsday Stone disc and asked hesitantly, "Does this Celestial Mystery Mirror have anything to do with the Profound Heaven sect's Profound Heaven Treasure Mirror?" Seeing Li Fan's questioning gaze, Zhang Yushan explained, "The Profound Heaven Treasure Mirror was the supreme treasure of the ancient Profound Heaven sect. After the Immortal Dao 10 sects destroyed the Profound Heaven sect, its whereabouts have been unknown. The 10 sects once captured many remnants of the Profound Heaven sect and interrogated them severely, but there was never any result. I only heard my colleagues talk about it when I was a jailer in the unfixed prison. Lu San was shocked when he heard this. Profound heaven, celestial mystery, could they be so similar? Could it be that the celestial venerable who founded the Myriad Immortals Alliance and destroyed the ancient cultivation world was a member of the Profound Heaven sect? Li Fan shook his head. I don't know about this. But since Elder Zhang mentioned it, I can inquire about it in the future. Lu San quickly dissuaded him. If the guess is true, the Myriad Immortals Alliance will definitely strictly seal off all information about the Profound Heaven sect. If you rashly inquire about it, you might attract suspicion. Besides, even if the Myriad Immortals Alliance is descended from the Profound Heaven sect, so what? Back then, the Immortal Dao 10 sects watched us rush out of the Xuanwang world to die. Speaking of which, we should thank the Myriad Immortals Alliance for helping us take revenge, Lu San snorted coldly. Zhang Yushan frowned slightly. After a moment of silence, she looked at Li Fan. I know a method that can test whether this celestial mystery mirror is a remnant of the Profound Heaven sect. Back then, in order to hunt down the remnants of the Profound Heaven sect, the Immortal Dao 10 sects created a secret technique called Open Black Lens Bracket Exterminate Profound Close Black Lens Bracket. After activating the secret technique, as long as there is something related to the Profound Heaven sect within the nearby range, you will feel it in your heart. However, the sensing range is extremely small, and you can only perceive it if you almost brush past it. So it's not very practical. But I heard that the celestial mystery mirror is present everywhere in the Myriad Immortals Alliance now, so maybe we can try it. Li Fan's heart stirred, and he nodded thoughtfully. Okay. I hope Elder Zhang can teach me. The secret technique was not very complicated, and Li Fan had already learned it in an instant. He immediately activated it and approached the Doomsday Stone disc at the same time. There was no reaction. Is it just a similarity in names? Lu San was a little surprised. Li Fan suddenly thought of something and focused his mind on his clone, Shu Bai. At this moment, Shu Bai was in the administration hall, chatting with his newly appointed colleagues from the Rebirth Hall. The Rebirth Hall was the organization established by the Rebirth Palace in each state, responsible for all matters related to reincarnation and resurrection, similar to the Strategy Hall and the Martial Arts Hall. After quietly bidding farewell to everyone, Shu Bai came to the Celestial Mystery Mirror in the city and silently activated the Open Black Lens Bracket Exterminate Profound Close Black Lens Bracket secret technique. Ding, 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 a rapid and sharp sound suddenly rang in Shu Bai's ears. In Shu Bai's vision, the originally simple and unadorned mirror was now blooming with a striking blood-red color. Sure enough, the Celestial Mystery Mirror is the supreme treasure of the Profound Heaven sect, the Profound Heaven Treasure Mirror. Shu Bai's heart trembled, and he instantly deactivated the secret technique. All the anomalies disappeared, and Shu Bai walked into the Celestial Mystery Mirror with a natural expression. 736. The chaos comes from the fairy world. Inside the Tianquan mirror's space, Shu Bai listened to the slightly metallic, mechanical voice of the mirror, his mind swirling with thoughts. Even if the Tianquan mirror isn't the main body of the Xuantian treasure mirror, there must be an extremely close connection between the two. Since the Tianquan mirror comes from the Xuantian sect, does that mean the Celestial Venerable of Dharma transmission does too? Is it to avenge the destruction of the sect by the 10 immortal sects back then? Shu Bai suddenly remembered the fact that the Tianquan mirror had been continuously producing secondary bodies for thousands of years. Even though the Xuantian sect has been destroyed for many years, it can still sense the connection between the Tianquan mirror and itself using the Exterminates on secret technique. Does this mean that the Tianquan mirror still hasn't completely escaped the control of the Xuantian sect? So, the Myriad Immortals Alliance went to great lengths to find the Xuantian sect Dharma King buried in the Zishao sect in order to obtain ultimate control over the Tianquan mirror. And the cause was that sentence I predicted when I was disguised as a Tianji sect cultivator. Tianquan locks the spirit, Xuanwang returns to unification. The events that had occurred in this world instantly connected, allowing Shu Bai to see the deep-seated reasons hidden behind the surface of the events. And now, the Immortal Alliance is actively promoting the arrival of the Great Exploration Era, seemingly to facilitate the further transformation of the Tianquan mirror. Does this mean that the Myriad Immortals Alliance has achieved its wish and grasped this treasure left behind by the Celestial Venerable of Dharma transmission? Shu Bai's eyes flickered. Once, he had speculated that the true master behind the Myriad Immortals Alliance was not a cultivator but the Tianquan mirror. But later, by chance, he learned of the existence of the Dharma transmitters. Therefore, he deduced that the Dharma transmitters and the Tianquan mirror restrained each other, jointly leading and ruling the Myriad Immortals alliance. Now it seems that the cultivators have finally won the final victory in this struggle. Xu Bai's mind suddenly flashed with the figures of Shuofeng and Lu Shichen. The Zan family, a sentence Lu Shuijing said when she saw his true form before echoed in his ears. Who are you from? I see you're very unfamiliar. You're not a spy from the Five Elders Association deliberately approaching Brother Shuo to find out the location of the Tianquan mirror, are you? You don't look like a good person at all. Brother Shuo has never lied to me before. Like a bolt of lightning, it pierced through the fog. So that's how it is, Xu Bai realized. A party without factions is the emperor's way of thinking, a party without cliques is strange and bizarre. Not all cultivators are on the side of the Dharma transmitters. At least, according to the current information, the chief of the strategy array hall, as well as the Crimson Snow Immortal Venerable and the Zan named cultivator, are on the side of the Tianquan mirror. The Dharma transmitters are trying to completely control the Tianquan mirror through the means of the Xuantian sect. And the cultivators who follow the lead of the Tianquan mirror naturally have to find a way to counter it. They may not be able to stop the Dharma transmitters' actions, so they take a different approach. Promoting the transformation and upgrading of the Tianquan mirror to resist the control of the Xuantian sect's secret techniques. However, such a fanfare, almost mobilizing the entire power of the Myriad Immortals Alliance to encourage cultivators to explore the white mist. Xu Bai absolutely did not believe that this did not have the approval of the highest ruling class of the Myriad Immortals Alliance, the Dharma transmitters. Unless, searching the mist is a decision from a higher will, even the Dharma transmitters cannot disobey. The Tianquan mirror wants to upgrade by this, but it is just borrowing the power of the east wind. And in this Xuanwang realm, the only thing that can make the Dharma transmitters bow their heads is. After some analysis, Xu Bai's heart trembled. The celestial venerable of Dharma transmission. He hasn't left, still in the Xuanwang realm. A huge sense of oppression instantly struck, and Xu Bai suddenly remembered that before the arrival of the Great Exploration Era, Lu San had already seen many Immortal Alliance cultivators delve deep into the mist. At that time, he guessed that the Immortal Alliance might be doing this to search for clues to the Chaos Word Art. Then, connecting everything together, Xu Bai instantly felt a chill down his spine. The vast divine sense that I sensed and descended after I used the Chaos Word Art that day was the Celestial Venerable of Dharma transmission. But soon, Xu Bai frowned slightly and denied himself. Although his performance that day was already excellent, he did not think that he could hide it from the eyes of the Dharma transmission. Moreover, from the use of the Chaos Word Art to the arrival of the divine sense. This time was too long. If it was really the Dharma transmission, with his cultivation, the reaction speed would not be so slow. It should be the Chaos Word Art that was detonated again to resist Mo Sha that finally attracted his attention. Xu Bai's thoughts suddenly stopped. Or perhaps, the Dharma transmission was not in the Xuanwang realm at that time. It was only because I used the Chaos Word Art that I brought him back. As soon as this thought came out, Xu Bai was immediately startled again. After thinking repeatedly for a long time, he still could not rule out this possibility. It seems that although this Chaos Word Art is strong, it cannot be used casually. Once was a fluke, if there is another time. Facing the celestial physician, he will really be affected. If the celestial venerable of Dharma transmission, who has dominated the Xuanwang realm for thousands of years, personally arrives, Xu Bai has no confidence at all that he can perform returning to truth in front of him. It's still best not to use it unless absolutely necessary, Xu Bai cursed inwardly. Xu Bai thought again that if the above guess is true, then the Dharma transmission, who has already achieved longevity and transcendence, is still so concerned about the Chaos Word Art. Is chaos also an immortal family's true inheritance? Xu Bai was startled, and the first thing he thought of was this possibility. In his mind, the scenes he saw in the reverse folding mist domain quickly replayed. The bizarre and terrifying corpses all over the ground, and the stone tablet engraved with the word, chaos, in the center of the mist domain. A guess could not help but emerge in his mind. That immortal cultivation world in the mist domain suffered a devastating disaster because of the influence of the chaos word. And that chaos word comes from the immortal realm. As for the reason why the reverse folding monster mistook me for the heavenly extinction fisherman elder and said that the murderer was the celestial physician, Xu Bai suddenly remembered what Di San Mo had said to Lu Ya. Sometimes, even what you see with your own eyes may not be the truth. Under the influence of the chaos word, the reason for misidentification cannot be ruled out. When Heavenly Extinction, Celestial Physician, and Heavenly Oracle confronted each other in the Yunshui Heavenly Palace, Heavenly Extinction personally admitted that he had slaughtered everyone in the Yunshui Heavenly Palace. Perhaps the reverse folding mist domain is also like this. The devouring Yuan white mist is filled with various strange and abnormal phenomena. It is difficult to say that there is no influence of the chaos word in it. It seems that the chaos word art is not only in the Xuanwang realm. Other immortal cultivation worlds may have also appeared. It even caused boundless calamity. This is probably why the Dharma Transmission, the current Myriad Immortals Alliance, and the Five Elders Association are all very concerned about it. While Shu Bai was stunned and thinking, in the Longevity Valley, Li Fan, who had been in a daze, was awakened by Lu San. Young Master, is the Tianquan mirror related to the Xuantian sect? He asked. 737. True Immortal has no name. Only then did I, Li Fan, return to my senses, nodding slightly and saying with a serious expression, the Celestial Alliance's treasure, the Celestial Mystery Mirror, is indeed related to the Profound Heaven sect. He then described the scene that his clone had sensed using the open black lens bracket profound extermination close black lens bracket secret technique. Hearing this, Zhang Yushan frowned and said, 3 dings, this is already the highest level warning within the Profound Heaven sect. It seems that this celestial mystery mirror is actually the Profound Heaven mirror from back then. Lu San, however, looked puzzled. What is the significance of simply reversing the name? If it's to hide its origins, they could have chosen a completely unrelated name. Moreover, the Profound Heaven sect's mortal enemies, the 10 immortal sects, have long since vanished. There's no need to conceal anything, is there? Zhang Yushan shook her head and explained, it's not as simple as just changing the name. I once heard that the Profound Heaven treasure mirror has a mysterious origin. It reflects all phenomena in the world and possesses supreme power. Back then, there were speculations within the 10 immortal sects that this mirror might not be native to the Xuanwang world, but might have come from the immortal realm. Li Fan's eyes narrowed, and Fang Ziji, who had been staring blankly at the open black lens bracket doomsday stone disc close black lens bracket while researching, suddenly raised his head and looked at Zhang Yushan, the immortal realm. He exclaimed. Zhang Yushan calmly continued, it's not something difficult to fathom. The master of the Profound Heaven sect, the half-step true immortal open black lens bracket Profound Heaven king close black lens bracket, didn't possess a magic treasure resembling a mirror before ascending. But after returning from the Ascension Passage, he acquired such a treasure. During his process of sweeping across the Xuanwang world with his half-immortal body and founding the Profound Heaven sect, the Profound Heaven treasure mirror played a crucial role. Otherwise, even after the Profound Heaven sect was destroyed, the 10 immortal sects wouldn't have coveted and feared it so much, even offering a reward of a longevity fruit. And when cultivation reaches the realm of true immortals, their very names represent a certain power. Seeming to have recalled something, Zhang Yushan fell into a brief silence. Li Fan asked at the right time, what do you mean by that, Elder Zhang? Before the immortal path was severed, there were many cultivators in the history of the Xuanwang world who successfully transcended the tribulation and ascended. There were even some who were elders of the 10 immortal sects. But when later generations wanted to trace and examine these true immortals, they discovered that all records about them had disappeared on their own. Not only could they not find any records of their past deeds, but even their names could not be preserved. Open black lens bracket true immortals are nameless close black lens bracket. Or rather, after completing the transformation into true immortals, they have already become beings that we cannot fully comprehend. Upon hearing these words, both Lu San and Fang Ziji, these 2 integration realm cultivators, were filled with shock. No wonder, when I traveled throughout the Xuanwang world in my early years, I only heard that there were immortals in ancient times, but I never knew the names of the immortals, Fang Ziji exclaimed in realization. Zhang Yushan continued, the same is true for true immortal magic treasures. Although magic treasures are not like true immortals, whose true names are not revealed to the world, they must also correspond to some kind of power of rules. From open black lens bracket profound heaven close black lens bracket to open black lens bracket celestial mystery close black lens bracket, there should be some kind of wonderful change that is unknown to people. After this speech, the other 3 were shocked by the power of the rumored true immortals, and fell into silence for a time. Soon after, Fang Ziji was the first to react. The celestial mystery mirror is a true immortal magic treasure, then its secondary body is equivalent to half an immortal artifact. His face instantly flushed red with excitement, and he tightly grasped the open black lens bracket Doomsday Stone Disc close black lens bracket and ran away without a trace. Sect Master, rest assured, I will go into seclusion and study it properly. I won't come out for the rest of my life until I get a result. His figure disappeared, but his voice continued to echo. Li Fan shook his head slightly, and then thanked Zhang Yushan. Elder Zhang is indeed a true disciple of the 10 immortal sects, learned, knowledgeable, and well-informed. I have never heard of such secrets of true immortals. Lu San also sighed. We, the Medicine King sect, can already be considered a medium-sized sect. But we know so little about such things. Zhang Yushan, however, didn't take it seriously, and said in a sharp voice like metal rubbing together, it's just a topic of conversation in leisure time. After all, the immortal path has been severed for a long time. What immortals are like myths and legends in the mouths of mortals, unreachable. She looked in the direction where Fang Ziji disappeared, and suddenly said, I have to keep an eye on him. Otherwise, by the time he comes up with a result, I'm afraid 100 years will have passed. Hee, it won't be that long, will it? Old Fang is still relatively reliable, Lu San said, but found that Zhang Yushan's figure had already turned into a black line and disappeared into the distance. Instantly, he also became a little anxious. Yushan, wait for me. Without even saying goodbye to Li Fan, he chased after her. In an instant, only Li Fan was left in the field. True immortals have no name. Not paying attention to the three who left, Li Fan just recalled Zhang Yushan's statement, and fell into a daze for a time. He didn't know how long it had been before he came back to his senses from his reverie. The White Mist exploration is about to end, and the Celestial Mystery Mirror will soon complete its transformation. Now the Myriad Immortals Alliance is at a critical period of change, so it is not suitable to go out. It is better to wait safely in this Longevity Valley for the changes to come. The entry restrictions to the Fallen Immortal Realm have long been lifted, but I have been exploring in the Maze Domain before, so I didn't have time to enter again. I might as well take this opportunity to visit the Heavenly Sword Sect again. After pondering for a moment, Li Fan had already made a decision. However, before entering the Fallen Immortal Realm, he quietly strolled through Longevity Valley and the Beast Seed Realm. In Longevity Valley, most of the awakened disciples of the Medicine King sect had already gone out. Only key positions were guarded by disciples. And in the Beast Seed Realm, Li Fan saw several familiar figures. It was Xiao Fan, Su Changyu, Su Xiaomei, and others from the Li realm. His divine sense swept over them without their knowledge, and Li Fan discovered a strange thing. In this life, although he hadn't paid much attention to them. But after all, he had also granted them the method of cultivation and hadn't restricted them too much. Now that more than 10 years had passed, according to the talent they had shown in the previous few lives, someone should have broken through to the Golden Core realm. But now, their progress was a bit disappointing. Yi Feipeng, who cultivated the 3 methods of cultivation, body refinement, and beast soul orb at the same time, had the highest realm, but he was only barely in the middle stage of foundation establishment. Su Xiaomei and Su Changyu, who practiced cultivation methods, had only recently broken through to the foundation establishment stage. The natural wonders of heaven and earth were naturally provided by the Medicine King sect. In the 3 years of selling longevity pills, the Medicine King sect's treasure trove had also become increasingly full. And Xiao Heng, who didn't choose the cultivation method and chose to communicate with the Empire Beast Soul Orb, had completely given up. He had no ambition. He spends his days in the Beast God armor form, wreaking havoc in the Beast Seed realm. Although their cultivation speed is still much faster than mine, it is obviously not their due level. Is spiritual energy gradually disappearing? Li Fan was thoughtful. 738. Lurking in the Heavenly Sword Sect. Of course, there's the reason why I've kept them confined in this world, but perhaps there might also be a problem on the other side of the boundary. Otherwise, these prodigies from the boundary wouldn't even be inferior to Sun Erlang and Wang Xuanba, 2 young lads from Great Zan. Back then, Li Fan had personally verified their cultivation talent. They were only barely able to cultivate, definitely not comparable to the people from the boundary. But now, they have surpassed them without anyone noticing. Before Li Fan's eyes, the volcano in the center of the Great Li suddenly appeared. From the moment he entered the boundary, he had a faint feeling that there was something wrong with that volcano. But perhaps because his realm and vision were insufficient, he had explored it several times before without being able to find the trick. It's a pity that the entrance to the boundary in this world has already been swallowed by spatial rifts, making it impossible to enter again. However, when I go there again in the next life, I can pay special attention to it. Thinking this, Li Fan gently waved his hand, and Su Changyu, Su Xiaomei, and others were instantly brought before him. The alertness of the group was significantly weaker compared to previous lives. It was only after a few breaths that they recovered from their confusion. After clearly seeing Li Fan in front of them, they hurriedly bowed and greeted. "Greetings, Sect Master." Li Fan's gaze swept over the crowd, and then he asked in a deep voice, "I brought you out of the mortal small world more than 10 years ago. First, I imprisoned you on the island, and then I brought you to this Longevity Valley. I have never let you go out. Do you have any complaints?" Yi Feipeng was the quickest to answer. "How could we have any complaints against you, Sect Master? We have lived very happily these years. Especially this Longevity Valley and the Beast Seed Realm, which may only be a corner in your eyes, Sect Master, but in our opinion, it is already bigger than our hometown," he said flatteringly. Xiao Heng deeply agreed and nodded in agreement. The others all followed suit. Li Fan was silent for a moment, waiting for them all to become nervous, before saying, "Now, the external Xuanwang realm is in a period of great change that has not been seen in thousands of years, with countless opportunities. It is the time for you to make great achievements. Pack up and leave the valley tomorrow." As soon as these words came out, the expressions on everyone's faces froze. However, before they could react, Li Fan waved his sleeve and left on his own, leaving only Yi Feipeng and the others looking at each other. They naturally did not dare to disobey Sect Master Li Fan's orders, so they had no choice but to accept this reality. With mournful faces, they hurried to seek help from the disciples of the Medicine King sect they were familiar with. "I hope they can bring me some surprises after they return to the sea. Otherwise, I'm afraid there really is something strange on the boundary side." The aura of inaction locked onto everyone, and then Li Fan quietly returned to the closed-door chamber in Longevity Valley. "Blessing be, Xuanwang Heavenly Lord." After setting up the ritual, the next moment, Li Fan entered the fallen immortal realm again. Without hesitation, he directly chose the Heavenly Sword Sect sword refinement scene. The scene in front of him twisted and blurred, and then a furious shout came from his ear. "Ji Zhaoxuan, why haven't you handed in that sword embryo this time either? Can you bear the responsibility for delaying senior brother's plan?" Memories flooded in, and Li Fan instantly understood his current situation. Since Mr. Bai left that day, the Heavenly Sword Sect had formulated the idea of forging a boundary-splitting divine weapon. It required all disciples to draw insights from wooden swords and inject them into a primordial stone called sword embryo. Then, it would be thrown into the deep pit in the back mountain, using molten fire to forge the prototype of the boundary-splitting divine weapon. Everyone in the Heavenly Sword Sect was like this. Disciples, elders, and even the sect's strongest, senior brother, Situ Yao were the same. However, the golden core cultivator, Ji Zhaoxuan, that Li Fan had possessed had failed to submit that sword embryo on time several times. Thus, the scene of someone coming to inquire about it appeared. Li Fan's expression was as usual, and he cupped his hands. "I hope senior brother Chu can give me a few more days. This junior brother's aptitude is dull, and the series of steps such as comprehension and purification are really slower than others." Senior brother Chu sized up Li Fan and snorted coldly, "This is the last time. Don't think I don't know what little thoughts you have. Your method of condensing qi into a sword is similar to the process of injecting sword intent into the sword embryo, but it works in reverse. Every moment the sword embryo stays in your body is of great benefit to you, isn't it?" Li Fan immediately revealed a flustered look as if he had been exposed, and quickly said, "Senior brother Chu." The other party waved his hand, his face turned cold. "It's not that I don't care about the friendship between fellow disciples. Compared with the future of the entire Heavenly Sword Sect, which is more important, I hope you understand. I'll come again in 2 days. You better behave yourself." After saying that, senior brother Chu turned and left. Amidst the pointing and whispering of countless other fellow disciples around him, Li Fan's flustered expression suddenly disappeared, and he returned to his room on his own. After checking his own condition, he understood in his heart. As expected, the person I possess this time is not a simple character either. In Ji Zhaoxuan's Dantian, a gray and misty, golden core, like a gaseous planet, was constantly spewing out gray gas, corroding and devouring the sword embryo primordial stone that was wandering nearby. At the same time, extremely subtle sword Dao profound meanings appeared in Li Fan's mind. Compared to the insights gained from personally touching the wooden sword, it was even purer and more powerful. This was also the reason why Ji Zhaoxuan repeatedly delayed handing in the sword embryo. Every time he obtained a sword embryo, he had to absorb it himself first, transforming it into his own knowledge before handing it over to the Heavenly Sword Sect. In fact, the sword Dao talent of this body definitely belonged to the top tier of geniuses. However, even so, the progress of analyzing the true meaning in the sword embryo was very slow. Each time it took a lot of time, so in the eyes of outsiders, his speed of condensing the sword embryo was much slower. Even that senior brother Chu only saw that he could obtain benefits and improve his cultivation from the sword embryo. But he would never have imagined that Ji Zhaoxuan could directly turn the true meaning in the sword embryo into his own use. What Heavenly Sword Sect's boundary-splitting plan, this body doesn't care about it. Because he himself is a double agent. Li Fan absorbed the sword embryo while recalling the memories that had suddenly appeared in his mind this time. On a certain night, without anyone noticing, Ji Zhaoxuan used secret techniques to transmit everything that had happened in the Heavenly Sword Sect recently to the outside world. There was no answer in his mind as to who exactly he had transmitted it to. He didn't even know the reason why he did so. It was just that one day, he suddenly acted as if he was being controlled, and made such a move on his own. Moreover, he himself did not feel that there was anything abnormal. Being able to deceive even himself, it is indeed a superior means of espionage. Li Fan thought to himself. The Heavenly Sword Sect's sword-forging matter is probably going to be known to everyone soon. Next, perhaps things will not be so peaceful. The scene of the southern underworld sacred beast mountain splitting the boundary and tearing apart the Xuanwang realm flashed through his mind, and Li Fan thought so. 739. Star Dan Ring Sword Qi. Fallen Immortal Realm, Heavenly Sword Sect. 3 days later, Li Fan sat cross-legged in the secret chamber, eyes closed in silent cultivation. Beside him, dozens of sword energies circled and spiraled. They were as solid as substance, seemingly capable of cutting through metal and iron, even faintly gleaming with a metallic luster. Upon closer inspection, one could vaguely see countless blurred sword shadows changing. In front of Li Fan, a sword embryo, its essence completely absorbed and mastered, floated in the air. This exhale sword technique indeed has some merit. Li Fan opened his mouth, and the dozens of incomparably sharp sword energies howled as they were swallowed by him, returning to his abdomen for further nurturing. And within his dantian, surrounding the gaseous planet-like golden core, there were already tens of thousands of sword lights. They formed a dazzling halo, beautiful and captivating. Only Li Fan knew what kind of terrifying power was contained within this sword light halo. If he were to exhale all these tens of thousands of sword energies in one breath, even a Yuanying expert of this era would probably lose their life in an instant. Ji Zhaoxuan has no memory of the origin of the technique in his mind. It seems to be simply the myriad sword art that all true disciples of the Heavenly Sword Sect cultivate. But clearly, there are not many in the entire Heavenly Sword Sect who have such an astonishing phenomenon at the Golden Core stage. Moreover, this move seems somewhat similar to Situ Yao's sword come. As his thoughts turned, Li Fan had already completely restrained the power of the 10,000 sword lights within his dantian. Not revealing even a trace of sharpness, he looked like an ordinary golden core cultivator. After leaving the secret cultivation chamber, before senior brother Chu could come looking for him, Li Fan took the initiative to hand over that sword embryo. Senior brother Chu wore an expression that said, "It's good you know what's good for you." He sized up that sword embryo and then casually put it away. It just so happens that senior brother is summoning everyone. It seems there is another important matter to be instructed. You should come with me, he ordered. Li Fan's heart stirred, he nodded, and followed behind him. The Heavenly Sword Sect's main hall was located atop a mountain peak that rose straight into the clouds like a sword, at the very center of the mountain gate. Many cultivators had already gathered in the hall, all of higher seniority than Li Fan. Not knowing why senior brother Chu had brought him here, he simply followed him and stood at the edge of the crowd, waiting for Situ Yao's arrival. Before long, the originally somewhat noisy hall suddenly fell silent. Then, a rich aroma of wine wafted over, and accompanied by a sword light, Situ Yao staggered to the center of the hall. He first let out a satisfied burp, and then intermittently, he spoke of the reason for summoning everyone. It turned out that the prototype of the realm-splitting divine weapon had been completed, and the next step was to forge the sword body. If they wanted to successfully traverse realms, the sword body of the divine weapon had to be incomparably sturdy. The most crucial material for this was Taiyuan refined gold. Although the Heavenly Sword sect's treasure vault had a considerable amount in stock, it was far from enough to meet the needs of forging the realm-splitting divine weapon. Situ Yao was a good fighter, but he was a bit powerless in this matter. So he wanted to ask for everyone's opinions. He also put forward 2 requirements. First, they must not reveal the fact that the Heavenly Sword sect was forging a realm-splitting divine weapon. Although they were not afraid of fighting, it would be extremely troublesome to deal with if the other sects joined forces and came knocking on their door. Second, although the Heavenly Sword sect was quite wealthy, the resources required to forge the realm-splitting divine weapon were simply too vast. In addition to Taiyuan refined gold, there were also thousands of other rare treasures, which would almost empty their coffers. So they should save as much as possible. Try to obtain enough Taiyuan refined gold with as little expenditure as possible. Hearing senior brother's words, all the cultivators present showed difficult expressions. Everyone, speak your minds and think of a way. Whoever can handle this matter, I will appoint him as the next Heavenly Sword sect master. Situ Yao slumped on the ground, without the slightest demeanor of a great figure, but spoke shockingly. And the current Heavenly Sword sect master, Huo Yuzhu, just smiled wryly, and did not dare to retort. As soon as this was said, the hall was in an uproar. After all, who wouldn't covet the position of sect master of the 10 immortal sects? Even if there wasn't much real power, the status and treatment were not comparable to ordinary disciples. Everyone had different expressions, but Li Fan noticed that senior brother Chu's gaze was subtly sweeping over him. What does he mean? Although Li Fan indeed knew where to find a large amount of Taiyuan refined gold, that was what he knew from the time mirage in the 5 elements Grand Grotto heaven in his previous life, outside the fallen immortal realm. It had nothing to do with the possessed Ji Zhaoshuan. What did this senior brother Chu know, that he specially called him over? Recalling the memories in this body's mind, Li Fan did not find any close relationship between himself and senior brother Chu. They were merely nodding acquaintances. So he remained calm, pretending not to notice the other party's expression. After the meeting ended, on the way back to his own mountain peak, senior brother Chu suddenly asked via voice transmission, "Junior brother Ji, your Ji family should have a lot of Taiyuan refined gold, right?" Li Fan was stunned. What? Senior brother Chu showed a look of dissatisfaction. Junior brother, don't play dumb with me. As the world's leading chamber of commerce, your Ji family is said to even possess semi-immortal artifacts. How could you not have Taiyuan refined gold? As if a switch had been flipped, memories about Ji Zhaoshuan's background instantly surfaced in Li Fan's mind. It was something that happened when the original body was only 5 or 6 years old. Leaving his parents, he was sent to the Heavenly Sword sect by the elders of the clan. He seemed to have been told something, but he had long forgotten it. If senior brother Chu hadn't reminded him and re-triggered the distant memories of this body, the possessed Li Fan would probably still be completely unaware. Coupled with his previous somewhat strange behavior, Li Fan suddenly understood. However, he didn't reveal anything on his face, and said with a blank expression, "Ji family." After a moment, he reacted. A trace of anger and sadness flashed in his eyes, and Li Fan said coldly, "I haven't contacted my family for so many years. We've long severed ties. Even if they have Taiyuan refined gold, it has nothing to do with me." Senior brother Chu smiled and persuaded, "Junior brother, don't be emotional. I know you have a lot of dissatisfaction, but think about it, if you can get the full support of the Ji family's World Chamber of Commerce, you may be able to compete for the position of sect master this time. Even if our Heavenly Sword sect is going to break through the realm and leave, there are always some things that cannot be taken away. Such as the vast Mountain Gate territory, and the jurisdiction over many affiliated sects. Just taking out some of them would be a huge profit for the World Chamber of Commerce. It's a win-win situation, why doesn't junior brother strive for it? Think about it carefully, if you are interested, I can accompany junior brother home and be a lobbyist." Senior brother Chu patted Li Fan on the shoulder, revealing a meaningful expression. 740. Spirit Stone Heavenly City. After senior brother Chu left, Li Fan recalled his words, a playful expression on his face. Remembering his memories, the Ji family seemed to have sent many peers to different sects. Li Fan was almost certain that the so-called lack of contact for many years was just a smokescreen. Ji Zhaoshuan must be a spy sent by the Ji family to the Heavenly Sword sect. Perhaps the word Spy is not appropriate, because the All Heavens Commerce Guild has no actual opposition to the Heavenly Sword sect. Traveling the world as merchants, various confidential information is crucial. I am afraid that the Ji family can quickly learn about various events in the Xuanwang realm and profit from them by such means. In this way, the news that the Heavenly Sword sect is forging the world-splitting divine weapon may not be widely known. After all, raising prices on the spot and pursuing profits are the nature of merchants. Taiyuan fine gold. Li Fan narrowed his eyes. To end the fallen immortal realm scene, he had to find the owner who maintained this fragment of memory and resolve his obsession. From the clues currently available, it seemed that Ji Zhaoxuan was the target. What is his obsession? Li Fan calmed his mind, recalling the various emotions attached to his body. When he recalled the Ji family, the deeply buried resentment and revenge emotions were keenly captured by Li Fan. Forced to leave home at a young age, thus harboring resentment. I can try it first. His thoughts raced, and Li Fan instantly thought of a way to retaliate against the Ji family. The next day, Li Fan contacted senior brother Chu again. Oh, junior brother Ji, you finally figured it out. The other party seemed a little excited. Li Fan nodded. That's right, we're all family, there's no grudges that can't be resolved. I'll prepare and return to the All Heavens Commerce Guild headquarters with you. If you successfully become the head of the family, junior brother, don't forget me. Senior brother Chu changed his previous arrogance and even became a little ingratiating. Before long, on the pretext of going out to find Taiyuan fine gold, the two left the Heavenly Sword sect and headed towards the Ji family. To avoid being noticed, they deliberately detoured at senior brother Chu's suggestion. Half a month later, they finally arrived at their destination. A city in the sky built entirely of top-grade spirit stones. Floating above a bustling market city, countless cultivators and merchants came and went, all showing envy in their eyes when they looked up at the spirit stone city in the sky. The All Heavens Market City was shrouded in formations, cultivators could not fly, and a fee was required to enter. Stepping into the market city, extremely pure spiritual energy rushed towards them. It was even better than in the Heavenly Sword sect. Senior brother Chu couldn't help but praise, as expected of the #1 commerce guild in the world, it's magnificent. He led Li Fan through countless shops to the magnificent mansion in the center of the market city. On the plaque above, the 4 characters Ji travels the world were engraved. Seeing Li Fan and the two approaching, a golden core cultivator in brocade clothes stepped forward to stop them. He said with a friendly face, "Do you two fellow cultivators have an invitation?" Senior brother Chu snorted coldly, "Invitation? You really have no discernment. Why do you need an invitation to return to your own home?" The brocade-clothed cultivator was immediately stunned, carefully examining senior brother Chu. "What are you looking at?" "It's this one next to me," he said with displeasure, pointing at Li Fan. The brocade-clothed cultivator then turned his gaze. He was not annoyed, but frowned slightly, as if thinking about something. After a moment, he looked surprised. "Please wait a moment, both of you." Saying that, he hurriedly walked into the Ji mansion. Before long, a middle-aged cultivator with a square face led a team of cultivators out. His gaze fell on Li Fan, and the square-faced cultivator showed no change in expression. "Zhaoxuan, why are you back? Could it be that you violated the rules and were expelled from the sect?" There was no joy of relatives meeting after a long absence, but a direct reprimand. Senior brother Chu was about to smooth things over, but he heard Li Fan directly retort, "Who are you? I've been away from home for too long, I don't remember." The square-faced cultivator's expression changed drastically. "Rebellious son. How dare you speak to your father like that?" Li Fan narrowed his eyes, his expression unchanged. "How do you prove it?" The square-faced cultivator's face instantly turned red. The pressure on his body was like a volcano about to erupt. The Ji mansion cultivators behind him all looked strange, sizing up Li Fan. But Li Fan was not afraid at all, took a breath, and suddenly hundreds of different colored sword chi flashed out, surrounding him. Seeing that the two sides were about to fight, senior brother Chu said repeatedly, "Misunderstanding, misunderstanding. Don't be impulsive. I am Chu Zongyi, a true disciple of the Heavenly Sword sect. This time, I have a mission to go out with junior brother Ji and pass by the All Heavens Market City. Thinking that this is junior brother Ji's home, I plan to come back and take a look." He hurriedly explained. Ji Zhaoxuan's father paused slightly when he heard the words. He glanced at the hundreds of sword chi surrounding Li Fan, and his eyes showed a different color. Slowly withdrawing his aura, he snorted, "Come in." Chu Zongyi breathed a sigh of relief, pulled Li Fan, and followed into the Ji mansion. After a winding journey, they finally arrived at the inner hall in the depths. Ji Zhaoshuan's father sat upright above, dismissed everyone, and asked in a deep voice, "Speak, what is the purpose of your visit?" Chu Zongyi was about to reply, but was stopped by Li Fan. "You are not qualified enough. Let the ancestor come," Li Fan said expressionlessly. Returning to the Ji family, the sealed memories seemed to be gradually awakening. Li Fan knew that Ji Zhaoshuan's father, Ji Shiwen, was only the supervisor in charge of the All Heavens Market City. He did not have much real power in the Ji family. The real ruler of the Ji family was the ancestor Ji Wangxian. Years ago, he was already a Dao integration cultivator who created the All Heavens Commerce Guild with his own hands, and his true cultivation was immeasurable. A hint of uncontrollable anger flashed in Ji Shiwen's eyes. However, seeing Li Fan's emotionless gaze that met his own, he couldn't help but shiver in his heart. After pondering for a long time, he finally suppressed his anger. "You wait here," he snorted, stomped his foot on the ground, turned into a stream of light, and flew to the spirit stone city in the sky. "Junior brother Ji, he is your father after all. Are you doing this a bit?" Chu Zongyi asked in a low voice. Li Fan said with a smile, "Isn't doing this make us seem more confident?" Seeing that Li Fan didn't care at all, senior brother Chu gave a dry laugh and didn't say much. While waiting in place, Li Fan found that the patterns in this hall were a bit familiar. It seems a bit similar to the totem of the Myriad Dharma Commerce Guild in reality. But there are some differences. Li Fan pondered in his heart. It seems that there should be some connection between the two. Before long, Ji Shiwen returned. "Follow me," he said with a gloomy face.